Today's podcast is sponsored by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/GOT and using GOT promo code at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Game of Thrones podcast, the officially unofficial podcast for Game of Thrones on HBO. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're talking about Season 7, Episode 5, titled Eastwatch. Aaron, we've seen it twice now. Our instant take was, I would say, pretty brutal. It was negative in tone, certainly. After seeing it again, what do you think?
I think this episode was a very entertaining hour of television. It was deliberately constructed to be so. There was many callbacks to not only things that we fondly remember from previous episodes and previous seasons, but also pairings that we were long awaiting, meta references to meta conversations about the show out of characters' own mouths. Those things were very delightful. But underneath that, I guess as I thought about this, my core complaint is that the overall thrust of the season, as I understand it, is dumb.
Okay.
The idea that you can catch a white and then take it to Cersei.
The overall thrust of the episode.
And not that, because I don't think that would work, but the fact that the other characters that I consider smart and the ones that have suffered so much at the hands of Cersei and her backstabbing, the fact that any of them could think that this plan would work, that they would go and have this dancing dead puppet and say, look, Cersei, and Cersei soberly looks and says, yes, I must commit the forces I don't have to this greater good of the realm, is just laughable.
It is. Yeah.
And there's also no hint that there's any kind of other side to it. Like, this is a trap they're going to set for Cersei to end it, and maybe that's where they're going, and then this will be brilliant. But as constructed, some of this stuff just seems ridiculous. Just like, even if everything goes the way the heroes want it to, they're going to be left with the situation where their position on the board is not materially changed, and I can't get over that.
Yeah, and if it has changed, it's changed for the worse, because I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, they want an armistice. They want a ceasefire while they deal with the threat from the north. Best case scenario, that's going to decimate their forces.
Right.
Which, if they're successful, would leave them vulnerable, potentially, to Cersei Lannister,
right,
who's going to be there to play mop-up.
That's Dany's argument. That argument makes sense. Look, if I do what you want and I save the realm, I'm going to save it for Cersei Lannister.
Right.
Which maybe that's something that, as your Dany, you should do as an altruistic person.
Yeah, but I guess that doesn't leave the people there in the realm in much better of a situation than they started off in,
right?
Which is unfortunate for them. But yeah, I do think that yes, that was maybe the dumbest plot development in the entirety of Game of Thrones,
right,
that I've seen to date. And
it's almost like the Double Ds knew that. Like, we have no great reason to bring these characters in these locations and delay this. So we
don't have time to manufacture those reasons.
So we're just going to do it and whistle and have Gendry pick up a warhammer and have Davos say, "It looks like your arms are jacked from still rolling," and crab meat, and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and I definitely think the show is suffering from the pacing, the necessary pacing shortcuts that they're taking. But I do agree that it was also very entertaining. Like, I really enjoyed that scene with Davos where he's being, Westerosi Han Solo, essentially.
Right.
I really liked a couple of other scenes in this, and I thought it was a lot of fun, even if it was different, I guess, from what Game of Thrones has been in the past. I think that's just the new reality we have to settle into.
Yeah.
Because this show doesn't have the time to be the old Game of Thrones anymore.
And I'm debating because, one of the things we kind of made our bones on here at Bald Move is we just give our opinions. Most of the time it's good because we're covering good shows that we like. Some of the times they're negative. because either it strikes us funny, or a show takes an occasional misstep, or sometimes it just turns into a train wreck. And I kept on thinking, like, I know just guys bitching about the show is not entertaining, but on the other hand, like, sometimes you can see when a show starts to spiral down. Like, remember season opener, season 2, The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. The whole episode is constructed upon the fact that these group of survivors have to be surprised by this giant herd of zombies, and they chose to film it in the middle of a straight stretch of highway 10 miles long, where you have good visibility up and down the road. Mm-hmm. So when your eyes are saying, how the fuck can these guys be surprised that this is coming, and yet the whole episode is built upon you being like, well, forget what my eyes say, it's happening, so I have to go with it. That's the kind of stuff that erodes your suspension of disbelief.
It does.
And I think that, number one, it's I've decided it's not a huge concern for Game of Thrones, because at the end of the day, in 8 more episodes, this whole thing's done.
Right.
Okay? So Game of Thrones cannot devolve into seasons worth of wasting our time.
No, it's going to do the exact opposite. It's going to potentially devolve into one season worth of skipping over important things that you kind of want to see.
Right.
In favor of the important things that need to happen to get to the conclusion of the story.
And also the other thing, I think that, like, if you're So the other side of the argument is, if you're looking for grand strategy and narratives to start it's not going to happen. Like, even if this was written perfectly, the show is coming to an end. Mm-hmm. So there aren't going to be any more grand, sprawling, epic things that can happen and betrayals, because there's not that much runway left.
Yeah.
And this is something we can debate once we see the whole series as a whole, but, like, it might be something that where people say, should the Double Ds have jettisoned intricate plotting and gone for spectacle at this stage? Should they put it off into the last season? Should, like, what exactly? And there's so much meta-analysis of, like, like, we casually say, like, well, the Double Ds are sick of this, they want to be done. Like, that's just something I've gotten from a couple burnt-out showrunners doing press. Mm-hmm. Like, you understand that, like, even if you love your job, nobody loves doing press for it. And on the press tour, when you're doing it for like 30 days and you just gotten done spending 10 months of your life making the thing, you probably just want to be like, God, can I get a month away so I can then plunge myself in another 78-hour work? So it's like, I don't even know if that's true. Mm-hmm. But yet that's the narrative, right?
Sure. Just like the narrative is, every episode this season is going to be huge spectacle and longer than the average one. Turns out that's not actually true. None of that came true. It was simply... It was fan, wishes, essentially. Like, hey, we're so close to the end, it's got to be big, right?
Well, I also think that, a lot of principals in the TV show encourage that type of thinking, too.
Sure. Why wouldn't they?
And they do. Like, even The Walking Dead, in its old wheezing state, every single time you can find a press of Andrew Lincoln saying, this year's the one where it gets really crazy. And we'll wait till...
Right.
It's like, okay.
You won't believe what crazy weapon Gendry uses.
Right. So it's like, it's tough, because there's a lot of blame and credit to go around. I don't think this episode's terrible. I do think that, and that's the thing, like, the previous episode is really good.
Yeah.
And it left us with a bullshit half-assed cliffhanger of Jaime being in the water. No one believed that Jaime is going to die.
No.
But a lot of people are thinking, like, well, what's going to happen now? Like, this is, like, right next to Dany. This is the heart of the battle. Mm-hmm. Oh, what happens when him and Bronn get taken prisoner? What happens when and then the fact that they just wake up the next thing they come up from air gasping for breath, implying that they just now surfaced, and they're like a mile or two away down the river bend, flowing upriver.
Oh, they're upriver?
Because downriver would take them right to King's Landing. Or maybe that's what happened. Then they crawled to King's Landing. But it just seems silly, because especially since they needed to get Tyrion and Jaime together so that Jaime could carry a message to Cersei. Well, a damn fine way to do that is to have him be captured. Yeah. And for Tyrion to be like, look, let my bro, this is the only person who will listen to the same fucking script and dialogue. You just tweak the situation. So, well, how did we get what we got? And, are we bad people for sitting there and being like, oh, well, my fragile suspension of disbelief is teetering. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think it's the majority sentiment, honestly.
Yes.
Most of what I read over the course of the last 2 days has been not entirely negative, but
Right.
mostly negative about the pacing
Worried.
and about the plot developments of
Yes.
this episode.
And
in
I will say
particular.
that this is not the first time this has happened on this show. Like
No.
there was a lot of this similar sentiment in the midpoints of like season 5, where you were knee deep in bad pussy and.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it this could be like last week was the most amazing episode ever. This week, fan servicey, plot kind of creaky. The next 2 episodes could make or break the season. But that's the other thing. Is like, what does that even mean? Like, the next 2 episodes are kind of turds, but spectacle. Like, they're still going to set records next year because who is going to nope out 6 more episodes of Game of Thrones?
Nobody.
No, even if you're going to hate watch it, you're going to watch it.
Even the people who say, I'm done, nope, this is it,
Right.
my final season. No, they'll be back for next season. You will.
Right. Especially since it's going to be 18 and you're going to miss it. And, I guess the only thing I can promise is we'll be along the ride with you because we've always tried to. We're not super meta. We don't have any industry connections. We're just watching this and talking about it like anybody else. So hopefully our reaction is representative of the larger fandom, or at least we can represent all the different voices of that debate. And that's I guess that's the best we can do.
Yeah, I agree.
This seems very silly now, but I mentioned this in the spoiler podcast, but I know that the spoiler podcast traffic is not even a fraction of the main podcast. I actually looked into whether you can swim in a suit of armor. And it turns out some guy like 7 years ago had full like 50, 60-pound plate armor that he jumped in a swimming pool and attempted to swim, and it did not go well.
No, that's shocking.
Yeah.
Truly shocking.
So Vimeo, there's a Vimeo link that will be in the main podcast where you can actually see that, and that's pretty cool. You should check it out. But apparently Jamie was wearing plot armor.
Yeah.
Which is impervious to dragonfire.
A lot lighter.
As dense as styrofoam. Actually helps you swim.
Yeah.
So that's what he was rocking. But like I said, I did all that scholarly research and then wah.
Yep. Okay, let's get into the recap. We start off with Bronn pulling Jamie out of the water.
I also like how I just
armor.
described scholarly research as me watching a Vimeo video.
Yeah. No, that's what they mean. That's a definition, right?
Yeah, that is scholarly.
He questions why Jamie would do something as stupid as charging a dragon and says, hey, you can't die. No one gets to kill you except me until I get what I'm owed. Bronn decides he's done fighting for the Lannisters, and Jamie decides that he has to tell Cersei about the dragons. Which, yeah, of course you have to tell Cersei about the dragons.
Yeah. They're a game changer.
They are, for sure. There was some debate, not very vigorous, but obviously it was going to be Bronn who pulled Jamie out of the water. Nobody thought Dickon was the guy who ran up and charged and
There's a couple
knocked him
people
off
making
his
the
horse.
argument, but
Yeah, they were obviously wrong. And this episode proved them so. There are a lot of good character moments between characters that are already established and have relationships, right? Like the stuff with Davos and Tyrion later on, and Gendry, who's a new character essentially. But in this scene, I think there are some really good moments between Bronn and Jamie, where Bronn is fed up. Yeah, rightfully so. This is not what he signed up for. He signed up to get a castle, to get a wife, and to settle down.
Yeah.
And now here he is out in a field getting attacked by dragons. This is not what he wanted.
Yeah, like...
no castle is worth this.
Dragons is where our partnership ends, as he says.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you got to be alive to enjoy a castle and a wife and a pile of gold.
Yeah. So I really felt for Bronn in this episode. He got bamboozled by Jamie, and he's done with it.
Yeah, and I also wonder long term how damaged he is going to be inside the Lannister. I don't know what I don't know what it wouldn't surprise me to see Bronn go over to Tyrion's side at this point.
Yeah,
like we might never Jamie's going to be like, okay, Bronn, let's go, and just Bronn's gone. He's over on Dragonstone. Like I'm back in the winning side.
So dragons, huh?
Right. Yeah. I can shovel dragon shit with the best of them.
Right.
If in fact it's almost kind of a plot hole if he shows up and he's still with Jamie.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that
point,
Bronn can't smuggle himself out of King's Landing and row over to Dragonstone?
Oh, for sure.
And are you telling me that he shows up and says, "I'm a friend of the hand of the Queen," that Tyrion's going to reject him? No way. So, I know that. Bronn knows that. The play for Bronn is obviously to go to Dragonstone.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Then we get some shots of Tyrion surveying the battlefield carnage. Dany gathers the remaining Lannisters and demands that they bend the knee or die. I actually wrote "and die" in this, which I'm not sure is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Randall and Dickon both refuse to kneel, and Drogon burns him up.
Yeah.
This is an awesome scene.
This scene of Drogon, like we talked about in Instant Cast, but this scene out of Drogon atop the hill while Dany holds court is just something out of a Renaissance painting. It is.
It almost looks like the cover of all the cheesy fantasy books that you see.
Yeah.
But it's so well done.
Bjorn Vallejo or whatever. Like, you know, this is a Conan the Barbarian cover.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. And
It is.
the fact that, like, I liked how, like, you know, there was a couple of dudes, like Lannister soldiers, like, yeah, fuck this, kneeling right away.
Yep.
And then, like, you know, Drogon roars at him and a couple more kneel. And then by the time Tarlys dies screaming, everybody bends the knee.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the fact that they had the, you know, a nice moment with Randall where he is, you know, confronted with the fact that he's already kind of flip-flopped before. You know, interesting, a lot of people emailed me and reminded me that Randall Tarley is one of the ones that fought for the Targaryens in the Robert's Rebellion. In fact, they mention, Stannis mentions in season 4 or 5 to Sam when he's talking about it that Randall is the only commander that handed Robert a defeat during the Battle of Ashford. So it is weird that he is so anti-Targaryen, you know, but I guess it's more... You know, they try to show this from Tyrion's perspective, like just how lunar this battlescape was, and how this is like something that is not normal and doesn't happen, and the fact that like the Dothraki are just there scavenging amongst the dead. That's kind of distasteful to a Westerosi eye, and how that these are foreign barbarians with the foreign queens. Like it's different, but it is weird that the show's positioned him as this like kind of like unmovable oak when he fought for the Targaryens and lost, fought for the Tyrells and lost, fought against the Tyrells, won, then fought against the Targaryens again, lost everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of complex stuff going on in this scene, specifically with Tyrion. He's looking at this devastation and probably just imagining this is what, you know, even the people that he cares about in his family could look like. This is what everyone he knows from King's Landing would look like if the dragons attacked it.
Right.
He's also just like seeing how Dany treats anyone who doesn't, you know, essentially bend the knee to her.
So I got a couple of questions about that, about the wisdom of that, but I also don't know why Tarly didn't take to black, especially once his son was involved.
Yeah.
Like, he's got this bullshit, oh, well, you're not my queen, you've got no authority. Well, then you're going to die. And it seems like he wanted his son to
You think that's
kneel.
an option? I don't know that Dany would have let him take the black.
I read the scene. First of all, if she doesn't do that, then she's really flouting Westerosi conventions.
I mean, that's what she said is, you know, you either bend the knee or you die. That is your choice.
So how did you, like, I paid attention to the reaction when Tyrion suggested it, and it looked like she was open to it, and then he just arrogantly said, you don't have the authority, you're not my queen.
Right.
So then it's like, and that's why if they'd left that out, then I guess I would have felt more from Tyrion's perspective that, like, well, you know, you could have not burnt the father and the child right there in front of everybody. But, like, the fact that there was a way out that he wouldn't even consider, like, that's a provocation against Dany's authority.
Okay.
Now, the flip side of that is that she says, look, well, if you can be chained up, then a lot of people will take the chaining. The flip side of that is you're forcing a lot of people that are not loyal to you into your inner circle. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a whole bunch of Lannister saboteurs going on now. And it's like, if it's all black and white, kneel or die, you're going to have a lot of kneelers with long knives behind their back, ready to stab.
Right. This is why I can't remember if I said this in the instant take or not, but this is why I think that they're setting up Dany and Sansa to sort of be opposites in their leading styles. Because Dany is very much like, I'm going to make you bend the knee, and then I'm going to bring you into my fold. Whereas Sansa says, hey, I'm not going to force you into this fold. I'm going to make it a good idea for you to join me, and we're all going to work together to do this thing. As opposed to Dany, who says, I'm doing this thing and you're getting behind me.
Right.
I feel like they're putting some weight to both sides there with those two characters.
But I thought the dialogue here with Dany's speech to the soldiers about how she come to break the wheel and don't believe the lies Cersei Lannister says, like that stuff was all really well done. Mm-hmm. This whole scene pretty good.
It was. Then Jaime tells Cersei that he goes back to King's Landing, tells Cersei that they can't win the war, and oh, by the way, Olenna killed Joffrey. Cersei's pretty hesitant to believe that, but she eventually buys it.
So you think you did? Guys, that was a question I had of whether you thought she, in the end, that Jaime persuaded her with his chain of logic and evidence.
Yeah, I think Cersei has not stopped stewing long enough to think about the logistics of it and why the motivations of it and why someone would want to kill Joffrey.
Right.
And then when Jaime brings that up, it makes a lot of sense to her because she knows Joffrey was a shit.
Yeah.
And that Tommen was docile little pet.
She did.
So, yeah. And then Cersei, they talk about the battle, and Jaime's trying to tell her, hey, we can't win this. She says she'd rather fight and die than surrender and die.
And also, they're in love with even numbers in the show. Apparently, Dany burnt 1,000 wagons.
I thought it was more like 12, but...
Right. So now it's plausible that this is some kind of slow-moving Holocaust we just saw.
Yeah.
The fact that she burnt up all the food in the realm. 1,000 wagons is a lot of that's a lot of wagons.
A lot of food. And we know it wasn't gold because all the gold made it behind the walls.
Right.
So it may have been like armor and swords, but mostly food.
They've established the North doesn't really have enough to feed their population. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of Pyrrhic victory we're gonna win here? Like, okay, we saved the world from the White Walkers, but you're gonna starve because you need to eat in the months it's gonna take to plant and sow and reap a harvest.
Right.
Or will the show just not like it's 1,000 wagons, whatever. Euron's got 1,000 ships.
So I'm wondering, like,
John's got 10,000 dudes.
Right. Dany's got 100,000. Why not?
Yeah, right.
How many Unsullied? I don't know. 1,000, 10,000. Who cares?
Is that believable? Whatever.
So I'm thinking about like the long winter, right? Like everybody talks about how long the winter is and how nobody really knows how long it can last.
Right.
When it comes,
the last
kind of
long
a rare
night
thing.
was generational.
Right. So you would think like they would be super worried about food in that situation, right? Because you can't really grow food during that period.
Sure.
So you have to stock it all up. Now, if they can successfully stave off that winter by destroying the Night's King or whatever, maybe they don't have such a problem, right? Maybe they have enough food to get through a few years, but not a decade.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that is the case.
I get a lot of emails. I'm gonna try to head them off. I got a lot of emails speculating on what's going to happen to the Long Night Part 2 that lasts for like decade, and I'm just like, just stop. That's not going to happen because the show is going to wrap up one way or another before decades pass. Okay, so. Depending on what Martin's playing at, either the White Walkers are going to win a swift and brutal victory and Westeros is populated by ice zombies, or they're going to... This is not the tale of the original Long Night, where generations of man suffer. Somehow they eke out an existence until the last hero arrives, / Azor Ahai, / the prince that was promised, and they forge a pact with the children of men with 12 companions. They go and somehow beat back the White Walkers, That's not what this story is about.
No, that is the last 6 episodes. That all happens.
yes.
In the last 6.
Yeah. And it's just there's going to be a new cast every episode,
right?
As the last generation of shitty Starks have died and shitty Lannisters. Yeah, I don't know. Drogon's going to be the R2D2 of the series. He's going to be the only one that's in all the seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's not what this story is. It's coming to its end. It won't. The story itself is not going to survive a long winter.
No.
So we go over to
the Double D's don't have enough food to provide George Martin for the next
or
decades.
the writing staff. So we go over to Dragonstone, and Jon is petting a dragon, and Dany's watching. Then she tells Jon that the dragons are her children, and she killed a bunch of troops, just like Jon did when he was taking back Winterfell. She asks him about the knife and the heart, but Jorah interrupts before he can explain anything.
Sword block. He knife blocks. He knife blocks Jon.
He does, yeah. Jon looks like he was grateful to see Jorah at the beginning. He doesn't want to explain this.
Right. I still question why. What is like? That's I mean, I keep falling back to what I said like 2 weeks ago, which is like if you're trying to tell an incredible story to someone that's barely believing it, you don't want to, you know, like if you pick up to a hitchhiker and they say, I've got a top secret mission, you got to get me to a secret base, or humanity's going to be lost. Okay. Probably reaching for my tire iron. If you start saying the president's out to kill you and that there's a piece of metal embedded in your brain and there's chemtrails and black hot, then the tire iron's definitely coming out.
Yeah.
So I guess it's that, but like I just feel like at this point Danny's convinced, and there's other problems I'll have. We'll talk about that later. But I want to take some time out to praise the show because again the Drogon stuff continues to be amazing. Like they've
that
come
stuff is awesome.
So far from Robo Drogon of previous seasons. Like when he like buzzes John and then wheels around and lands and does that kind of like galloping shimmy run, like it kind of believably like what a giant beast like that would run when it doesn't even have like front feet. It's just got the little bat wings, and how utterly convincing it is that Kit Harington's petting this thing.
Yeah,
like
no, it looks great.
It's so good that the first time I watched it, my brain didn't even process that I'm watching special effects.
That's the thing about this show. I'm consistently amazed with what they can do given their budget because
just absorbed.
Just absorbed.
It's just like you just get wrapped up into watching it. And you don't even realize.
Yeah. It's impressive to me because I was linked an article by one of my friends about the budgets on this show and how they kind of stack up to other shows. Apparently, they're averaging about $6 million an episode on this show. That seems extraordinarily low
for what
they're getting out of it. Yeah, I mean, from not just the special effects and CG and the pyrotechnics and stuff, but if you look at just the costuming and the landscapes and location shooting. They are really stretching that money, and they're putting it to good use.
Yes.
I have to say. And I'm constantly impressed with Drogon being on the screen for more than a half a second.
Right.
Every time he's up there, because I'm like, that must have cost a lot of money, and I don't know how you guys are making the show.
Now, I will say that it's starting to get ridiculous that we haven't seen Ghost. Because,
but
I mean, they talk about how
I care.
I do, and it's silly that John would go up north without Ghost, and the fact that they can splash all this money around and set 20 dudes on fire simultaneously, but you can't composite a real wolf into a scene like it. It's maybe if they would sit there and show their budget and walk you through, and they can be like, here's the $100,000 that we had to spend on Ghost, and if we did that, we wouldn't, the Drogon scene would be 3 seconds shorter than it was. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's hard for me to believe that they just can't render the damn wolf when it's such a fan favorite, and we haven't seen him he's been missing for going on 2 seasons now.
Yeah, I guess it's not a favorite to this fan. Like I ever since like the last time I cared about Ghost and thought, Ghost was when he saved Sam and Gilly. Like how many seasons ago? That might have been 3 seasons ago.
But like Summer went out like a hero. I missed the direwolves. I think they're cool.
I thought the Nymeria reunion scene was good. I don't know. I haven't really.
So I guess that's
Ghost
the question. Like, would you go Nymeria or would you go a couple scenes of Ghost skulking in the background? I would take Nymeria every single time. So maybe that's the budget. The way it sorts out. But, given that 100 million people are watching this and the merchandising alone, it's just like, sell 1,000 more Game of Thrones t-shirts. Bam. You're done. You're done. You got to go.
Ghost Kickstarter.
Can we have a here, this is a t-shirt we are absolutely going to make, a milk carton with a white giant wolf on it. Says, have you seen me? Sell it, donate all proceeds. We'll donate all to our pockets.
Ghost?
Yeah, got Ghost. There you go.
I don't know. That sounds real dumb. Sounds like something we'd make.
Hungry for apples. So here's the other thing. John and Jorah meet for the first time.
Yep.
And Surf Your Father, no mention made of the big honkin' Valyrian steel blade with the white bear's head on it.
No, that's not a bear head anymore. It's a wolf head.
I think that's
Jorah
in the
probably
book.
doesn't recognize
it. That's something they established in the books, and like they didn't actually. Did they?
I think
the hilt
they changed
was destroyed
it to a
and
wolf.
made it a wolf. Okay, gotcha.
I'm pretty sure it's a wolf now.
All right.
But I feel like John has a responsibility to at least say, do you want this sword back?
Or I
know he's like a shamed Mormon, but
yeah.
come on.
There's very little of that coming through.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just a person who start watching, there's like the fact that that Jorah is a disgraced Mormon. Like, that's not coming
It's
across.
all like, what, 5 seasons ago, 6 seasons ago at this
But
point.
I guess it's also fair. It's like, Jamie being an attempted child murderer is not coming through in his character right now either.
Yeah, they've both changed as people.
But I also thought it was weird that there was no mention of Sam. Like, because I thought the whole idea, like, I'm now honestly left wondering why Sam went to the Citadel, since we just saw him left and his main accomplishment is finding out how many shits Sept and Maribold took, and
Steps or shits, I can't remember.
Cutting Gilly off as she was dropping the biggest truth bomb on the series to date, and curing Jorah of Grayscale, which has had no narrative payoff so far.
Not yet.
I thought it would, that that he'd be like, well, you have a acolyte named Sam to thank, and John. I don't know. Like, there's connections to be made here, and they're not making them.
Maybe the prophecy is about a Jorah high. Are we sure that that's not just like a mistranslation?
Yeah, the unguent is like 90% milk of the poppy, so he's a high for sure. I'm just saying, like, with all the fan service they got going on, there was a lot of fan service left on the table.
Yeah. No, that's true. I would have expected something about the sword.
Yeah.
The other thing that Jorah provides, I guess, assuming he comes back to Dragonstone alive, maybe some military advice. I don't know. This guy's not really a military strategist, though.
Yeah.
But nobody on their team is. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Tyrion really isn't. He's more of a diplomat.
I mean, Jorah, I thought he was going to become like Sir Barristan's, Lord Commander of the Queen's Guard.
Right.
I thought that's the natural thing for him to take, because he's got, Dany's not going to marry him and give him what he wants, the Queen's booty. So it seems like a logical thing is to like take a vow where you're not going to have it, and then you can just serve her chastely from afar. It's so weird.
Stupid Grayscale.
Yeah. I don't know. The other thing we're kind of glossing over here is Jon. This is the third time we've seen the dragons take an instant liking to someone. Mm-hmm. Dany was the first one. Tyrion, when he went into the free Viserion and Rhaegal, and now Jon.
Yeah.
We know that Jon is at least half Targaryen. Because of what the show has showed us. There is, I think a question can be raised in the minds of viewers is this something special, and is there going to be something made of this? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just want to know what. I mean, it seems like you got 3 dragons. You got 3 people with affinity for dragons. Uh-huh. The dragon has 3 heads. Dany's wearing a 3-headed dragon. Like, wow, this seems like a done deal.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Except for Jon's
going
to try to get himself killed beyond the wall now.
Well, yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. No, well, he may be killed, but I don't think he won't be back.
And even if he does get killed, there's someone there's a medic in the party.
Yeah, there is. I think there has to be some significance to those 3 people.
Yeah.
But I think we're yet to see exactly what it is.
Yep.
All right, we go over to Bran at Winterfell. He sends the Ravens north over the wall to spy. Apparently he sits in the freezing cold for 24 hours while controlling these things. Maester
he's lost his connection to humanity, which includes his connection to needing to feel warm, I
guess, and sleeping and eating. Maester Wolkin's conveniently there just as he breaks out, so Maester Wolkin's freezing his butt off too for a full day. Uh-huh. He sees the White Walkers, and then he tells the Maester to send ravens, and he's like, we have no ravens left. You sent them all north.
You warged them all.
Right.
Did you see what I was talking about with the rotating crow's eyes?
Yeah, I did.
So
it looks like he's swapping back and forth between them.
So is that because there's a couple theories people wrote in. My theory was that you're supposed to be impressed by how he is in tandem, like rotating, connecting all these different crows. And the second is that like some people thought that like he's hiding from the Night's King. Like this is a decoy strategy.
That might explain better why there are so many.
Yeah,
of them.
Because the Night King looks at the flock and it like explodes the flock.
Right.
So Bran is trying to avoid a situation where the Night King can like psychically confront him. So by swapping bird, the Night King can't quite lock in on him.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good theory too.
And
It's as much sense as anything else makes.
I'm sure he could have warged into really anything anywhere, right? I mean, I don't think he has to be like near a thing to warg into it.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We really
I guess we don't know that for sure.
We have a shocking lack of information about how any of this magic works.
Yeah.
7 seasons in.
I did think it was smart of him, though, to take the flying creatures, because that way the Night's King can't repeat last time and grab them.
Because that's the thing. If you can warg from any arbitrary distance, Bran could snag 3 dragons and see what the Night King thinks about that.
Sure.
Yeah. Try to disperse these guys when you look at them. So that's a hop, skip, and a jump away from there. It really does bother me that this stuff is so ill-defined.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess it'll bother me if they do something like super important with it that stretches my credibility.
Right.
Or stretches the show's credibility, rather.
Right.
But as it sits now, I'm still okay with everything they've done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I
I
guess they've consistently shown that Bran has to be in proximity or touching something, to be able to see something, to be able to take it. And that's consistent with all the warging we've seen in the show. So if they go and start doing like remote action at a distance, they're going to have to explain that, or they're going to have to show somehow Bran learning that technique or powering up somehow, or I don't know, Dragon Ball Z style, grunting and grimacing for 5 minutes as a vortex of energy slowly,
or at the very least,
lights him, turns his hair blonde and levitates it.
Using it in a way that isn't completely pivotal to the plot at first.
Okay.
So that we can get used to it and then know that that's an ability. And then, if he were to just like warg into Cersei or something and throw her off the Red Keep.
Right.
That'd be fucking stupid. But, if he were able to... well, not that I wouldn't like to see it, but I don't know. I think there are ways that you can kind of not necessarily like explain or show him Rocky-style montaging his way into it and still make it not completely unbelievable.
That's what he does. He's going to warg into Cersei. She's going to go to Jaime with wide eyes, tell him I faked every orgasm. This is your fault, and then throw herself off to toss him far the Red Keep.
Just for fun. That's just Bran's Tuesday morning.
That's just what he does for breakfast. He dines on the misery of Lannisters now. All right.
Yeah, maybe we should move on to Sam.
Oh, but I will say that, like, I actually kind of think the fact that he remote controlled these crows half a continent away across the wall, and they also, we for the very first time we got a bit of the gauge of the distance the White Walkers are from Eastwatch. It was a not inconsiderable distance.
Yeah,
like there's a montage of him getting to Eastwatch, going over Eastwatch, and going over varied terrain, and lots of cuts until we got to the Army of the Dead.
Still seems
off. Which also seems like they're rolling hella deep. So I'm really interested in seeing how Jon picks off one of these guys and takes him with him.
Right.
So
sneaks up and grabs one who's taking a shit in the woods.
Yeah.
There were also some really nice angles of Winterfell that you don't see a lot in this scene. I actually appreciated those. Then we move on to Sam, who's filing scrolls. I don't know, he's gathering scrolls from a very sensitive location. He overhears the Maesters talking about a message from Bran about the White Walkers, and he tries to convince him to do something about it, which he says basically set the Maesters reading all the scrolls to find out how to defeat them and get the armies moving north, but they just make fun of him and say, yeah, we'll consider it. Yeah. And when Sam leaves, the Maester says he hasn't told Sam about his father and brother yet.
Good thing they weren't discussing that, Raven.
Yeah, no.
Said news of some Tarly that was burnt to a... Oh, Sam, you might want to go check the latrines.
Well, like, first of all, I wonder what Sam would think. Like, Sam seems like maybe him and his brother would be okay if it wasn't for his dad being a dick, but like, would he really care about his dad getting burnt to a crisp, being a pig-headed idiot?
I doubt it.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I know a bit about estranged parents, and
yeah,
mine
was not nearly the dick that Randall was.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what what he would think about that. It seems unlikely that he'd have a big emotional reaction to it, but who knows? Who knows? I also thought, I wonder Because as I said, it's phenomenally stupid, the idea that they can parade this white in front of Cersei and her be like, "Oh my God, I'm suddenly taking you seriously and I'm on your side now." Mm-hmm. Sam outlines a case where, what if, and the fact that he's leaving, where do you think he's going? I'm asking a lot of these are a lot of disjointed questions because I'm piecing this together.
Where is Sam going?
Because I think there's like the logical thing to do would be bring the white to Old Town.
Okay.
Show the maesters, here is a dead man walking. This is what we are seeing. And, you could even have, I don't know, Bran do a crow warging demonstration or something. Like, I don't think for nothing Sam lays out the very real fact that the Maesters are this respected organization by everyone. The commoners respect their education and learning. The lords respect the fact that they can communicate swiftly and their allegiances to the realm and not to individual lordships. Like, they are respected. They're respected everywhere. So if you could get them on the same message that this is a real thing, that is a non-ridiculous way for this end game to go forward. In which case, that's super frustrating because it feels like if they shifted these events around a couple times, like Jon or Tyrion could make a decision that's out of wisdom rather than seemingly just a last-ditch Hail Mary, like, fuck it, let's try it. We haven't tried showing Cersei a dead man, so...
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it would matter to Cersei.
I know.
That's my final thing. My final thought on the matter is, like, Cersei doesn't care.
No.
Cersei knows that when it comes down to it, her enemies are going to be stuck between her and the White Walkers.
Right.
And they have to fight regardless.
Right.
So wait for them to fight, wait for them to be killed, and then she'll deal with the threats.
Yeah, and
from a much stronger position.
And again, most of Dany's inner council knows this. Like, Tyrion and Varys should know all this. So that's what I'm saying, that they pivoted to the Maesters, they'd have something, because if you appealed directly to the lords and said...
Right.
Regardless of what Cersei's saying, this is the thing that needs to be done. I kind of think that has at least a prayer of working. We're just appealing to Cersei's better nature.
Right.
The fact that Tyrion is suggesting it is like, I got a lot of feedback saying like, well, maybe this is proof that Tyrion is going to betray Dany because this is such obviously bad counsel. It's going to get Jon killed. That I that's not good when your viewers are taking that message away.
Right.
I don't think. Unless they actually intend Tyrion to be a betrayer.
Well, he's certainly in this next scene trying to justify Dany's actions to Varys, and probably more importantly himself. Varys says he told himself the same things that Tyrion's saying when he watched the Mad King's victims get burned.
Right.
And Tyrion needs to make her listen somehow. Oh, also there's a message from Winterfell for Jon. And I really love this scene. The way that they present this message. It's got this sealed scroll. Oh, well,
it's for the King of the North.
Yeah, of course I wouldn't open it. But
so what's it say? Nothing good.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, why is it Tyrion's job to make her listen? Mm-hmm. Like, it's weird that Varys is kind of washing his hands here.
He's very hands off,
especially since he promised Dany that if he had a problem with her management, that he would take it right to her.
Right.
So, like, that's another curious moment that they we universally praise that, like, real talk they had a couple episodes, and here now it's like Tyrion is like, Varys is like, yeah, you done fucked up, kid. Mm-hmm. What's going on? What's going on with the Mad Queen you got growing here? Like, it's your problem too, man.
Yeah, it makes me question his motivations, honestly.
Where's your fucking intelligence? Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't be in this situation if you'd told me to Euron and my sister. It's like it's weird because like all these obviously smart characters are having what I would consider dumb conversations.
But a lot of people are, questioning Varys' motives. Is he actually working for Dany? Is he giving information to the Lannisters somehow? But I think it's scenes like this and this sort of inconsistency that, lends some credence to those ideas.
I think you're right, and maybe that's the whole thing, though. The reason that he's being weirdly written is to keep us kind of on that will he, won't he betray Dany kind of edge, but... If you take him at his word, Dany's still the obvious choice for the best, new management for the realm. And if you don't take him at his word, then what the hell is his game?
Yeah.
He overthrew
this
previous administration that he was as high as he could ever get. Like, does Varys have desires for the Iron Throne himself, the foreign-born eunuch?
He says he doesn't.
I mean, even if he did, he's got like nothing really makes sense other than him being in service to the realm, and the show has done nothing to show that a smart person like Varys would start suddenly doubting the queen over Cersei.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if somehow Gendry had won, risen from the streets of steel to the Red Keep, and he's like, oh well, now we got this person, maybe I'll back this other guy, but it's still Cersei fucking Lannister.
Yeah. All right, we move on to Dany's team talking strategy and deciding on a plan to prove to Cersei once and for all that the White Walkers exist by going north, capturing one, and presenting it to her in King's Landing. I love this is ridiculous.
I love how they gloss over, like the hard part is actually getting a meeting with Cersei. I mean,
there were two very, very hard parts to this.
Yes, going up north and getting the lone, like you said, the white that's taking a shit.
And there are only two parts to this plan, so they're both very, very hard.
Yeah, like even the underpants gnomes in South Park had 2 points. Like this is just all literally question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah.
Result question mark. Like it's what the hell? What the hell?
Yeah.
I've got in my notes, this is such bullshit. I don't know. And again, that's the other thing. It's like, here's a fair question that was propounded to me dozens of times in the feedback. How the hell does Tyrion know Jaime's alive? From Tyrion's perspective, he saw a gout of flame aimed at his brother, Bronn tackle him into the water, and neither of them surface.
Yeah. He probably doesn't know that for sure.
But he just confidently asserts that, and I need to get in contact with Jaime.
Will listen to me, yeah.
Like, that's something that's, like, a really low-key... Like, I didn't even notice that's a second viewing. It's like, how the hell does he even know that his brother's alive? If he does know his brother's alive, did he withhold information from Dany? Like, hey, there's my brother, commander of the Lannister army, sneaking off with the sellsword, who's his bodyguard. Like, might want to round him up, Your Grace. Yeah.
Well, it's tough to know how much time has taken place between that battle and this moment.
Yeah.
Potentially Varys is doing his job and has intel and knows that he's alive.
Right.
But we're not given any indication that that's the case.
Right.
So.
And I did like the whole I don't need your permission with respect, Your Grace. I'm a king, and I trusted you to come down here, and now it's your turn to trust me. That stuff is pretty good. It's just that's the thing. Like, as good as these episodes are, the central framing device of the season, which is trying to go north to get this white, is just really dumb. Like, not even from a meta level, like, oh, there's just no way they can get a White Walker, this is stupid, but just the end result to convince Cersei, that is also dumb. And no one is, I mean, they're paying lip service to it. It's like they're raising all the same objections, but like, I feel like there's enough objections in the room that like the result would be they have to sit down and make another plan, not just be like, well, this is the shittiest plan we thought of in 30 seconds. Let's execute. Go team. It's like literally, like the way they framed it, like Tyrion's like musing, like, what if we do, like, okay, well, what if?
Yeah, no, this is exactly, I mean, this is Ocean's 11, 12, 13. This is every heist movie you've ever seen where they come up with a plan that couldn't possibly work, and then everybody steps forward to say, I have a piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
Oh, I have a piece of the puzzle too. And yet somehow there are like 5 pieces of the puzzle missing, and they just ignore that and continue with the plan here.
That's the thing. Like, George Clooney had a fully rendered wireframe diagram of the Bellagio's bank vault. If Tyrion had that, fine, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
The Night King uses a pressure-mounted sin in his bedroom chamber where he keeps his prized white. And, it's like, no, there's none of that. There's none of that.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
Just a hunch. So I like this. I'm going to credit Red Lancer from the forums because I was reading through and he said that the white they bring back might actually be Benjen.
Oh.
Which I think is interesting, but I don't know if it's all that convincing because Benjen still kind of looks and acts like a human.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Like, he's not the white that would inspire fear into the lords.
I wouldn't think so.
Like
no.
the snarling, mindless beast. And the other thing is, like, can John not mention the fact that the white that he saw, like, played possum for an extended period of time and activated? Like, what it seems like if this even
It's gonna be
works,
a Toy Story situation.
it's going to
where
be
the
like I
white
saw on
won't
Reddit.
do
It's
what
like
he
it's a
wants.
Michigan J Frog situation where John's going to have this white that's snarling and out for blood, and he shows him to Cersei, and it just collapses on the floor
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
Then he gets up, as soon as everybody leaves the Red Keep, and it's just him and John. He puts on the top hat. Hello, my baby. Hello, my
Right.
honey. Hello. And it's like, why? That's a perfectly logical thing to ask. The
Yeah.
Night King controls these guys. He can make them play dead. He's done it before. John, you saw this. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, I will go out on a limb here and say they haven't really thought about this plan very much.
Is this something for us to do? It's something fun, getting the gang
Yeah.
all back together.
Gotta do something.
Yeah.
Let's make everybody feel like they're doing something.
Yeah.
All right, the Lords of the North are pissed about Jon taking so long to get back, and they want Sansa to lead them. Sansa assures that he'll return, and things will be awesome once again. Arya watches with a weird expression on her face, which I couldn't quite read. Afterward, Arya insinuates that Sansa is only concerned with being a fancy ruling lady, and Sansa says she's not cutting the heads off of people because she doesn't think it's a good leadership philosophy. A lot going on in this scene.
No, I've got a different opinion on this, Jim. I've come around to thinking that maybe we are actually seeing a one-sided ploy. That this is Arya and Sansa, in fact, working together to out Littlefinger's true loyalties. So
Okay.
they can expose him in front of the lords as the betrayer. Because anything else makes Sansa or Arya look really stupid and reactionary. Like they are little girls who haven't been through 5 years of hell and are ready to turn on each other at a moment's notice over childhood grievances about you liking pretty things. Like, what's Sansa supposed to do? Fucking sleep in the ruined tower because this is mom and dad's room? She's the Lady of Winterfell. This is where she belongs. Jesus Christ, Arya.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if like this whole beheading thing is Arya's true philosophy on the matter, or if she's testing Sansa
Yeah.
to see what kind of leader she's going to be. I really don't know.
Yeah, and
not
the other
clear
thing
to
is
me.
like this also this also is of a piece like when everybody's like, what is Littlefinger's deal, and Sansa's like, I know what Littlefinger wants. Like it'd be a pretty brilliant way to get us all like thinking that this is just going to be a betrayal by Arya / Sansa, and then it turns out it's just going to be their way of trapping Littlefinger into some kind of hard candy situation, which I fully support. But as it almost, this is one thing where I'm giving Double D's a benefit of the doubt. Like it's dumb, but it also might be that intentionally. Now there's a fine line to straddle there, right? Because you can get the situation where the dumb plan makes everyone look Littlefinger looks stupid for getting caught in it. Arya and Sansa look stupid for it's like there's a thin line between playing into audiences' expectations of like these characters' worst moments, like, oh, this is Arya and them being stupid kids again, and then they're going to do something brilliant, but they got to be able to pull that off without making Littlefinger look stupid, because that's the thing, you cannot suddenly make Littlefinger be dumb so that they can get the best of them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to play off somebody's other weaknesses, right?
Right.
It can't be their stupidity because none of these characters are stupid.
Right.
It has to be like for Ned Stark, it was honor, right?
And I think
it was loyalty.
It's fair to say that Sansa used to be stupid.
Sure, yeah.
Like
she's grown a lot over
she's
these.
saying,
7
said
years.
herself, like, I was just a stupid girl who's always wrong. But you've had many seasons of development past that. So
Right.
like I no longer think you're dumb, Sansa. Don't prove me wrong.
Yeah, and you are very familiar with Littlefinger's machinations. So
Yes.
yeah, they need to play off something else. Littlefinger's own hubris, I think, might
Right.
also be a possibility.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be dumb to be fooled. He could be too full of himself.
I actually was kind of in my subsequent watches somewhat impressed with the idea that we thought Littlefinger was freaking out because there's something incriminating him, but what he actually found was something we know in the show is horribly incriminating from a Sansa perspective. And you think of Arya, the last time she saw Sansa before this, she was standing right on the stage next to Joffrey smiling, and then Jorah grabbed her and said, don't look, and her dad's head got cut off. So she sees this, and she sees this message, that's the thing, like, if I'm right about this plot, it's entirely possible that Arya doesn't know she's being played either. That this is something that Sansa's Littlefingering, and it's going to, and then how is she going to convince Arya that she's actually? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, Littlefinger is definitely playing it like it's something he's doing for Sansa, right? Hiding this message that she sent so that no one will know.
But it's that's the other tricky thing, is to show something like a machination from the audience perspective that because like from when I was watching this first time, like Littlefinger comes out of the room and Arya immediately steps out of the shadows and starts loudly jacking with this door. And I'm like, my first thought is like, well, realistically, wouldn't you wait a couple minutes to make sure Littlefinger didn't forget his keys? Didn't like, oh, I left my wallet in my chamber, like go back, like, you know, the fact that Arya is this master sneak assassin thief kind of person. She's also living lie detector. That was part of her faceless man training.
It was
that if this is just happening as it's just nakedly happening on the show, where she's just falling for all these traps and tricks, it just really seems dumb. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Let's go to Davos and Tyrion at King's Landing. Bronn leads Jaime down to the catacombs where Tyrion meets with him and tells him they can't win the war, and Dany wants something super important that is not bending the knee. And we don't find out what it is in this scene, but of course we know it's an armistice. I think when he's talking about the dragons and how Dany's going to win the war, Jaime knows that. Jaime's seen the devastation of the dragons, and so it really hits home with him. So I think he's a little more open, than someone who hasn't seen the dragon devastation would be to this proposal. But I wish this scene had been longer. I wish this scene had a little more room to breathe.
Agreed.
And these two brothers
This is a big moment.
Yeah, it should be. It should be a huge moment. And with what they're given, I think these two actors do a great job. But I just wish they were given a little bit more to work with.
No, Nikolai, like when you see the tension literally leave his body after Tyrion makes that training sword, it'll take you a while to cut me in half. Like that, like he is carrying a lot of weight of the script just by this performance. This is like Jaime wants to fall back into this relationship with his brother. Where he's the naughty little boy, and Jaime's the slightly more responsible older brother that looks after him and makes sure he's supplied with drinks and whores, and that's all a good time. And Jaime misses that, and that is all completely unsaid except for his performance and our knowledge of the characters. Sure. Also, by the way, we glossed over the arrival of Davos and Tyrion and King's Landing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Master Smuggler just rides a canoe up to the beach of King's." I mean. No, the master smuggler is the fact that he knows how to bribe the guards, and he knows how to have the crab meat, the subterfuge. Like that's
he was prepared.
Yeah, it's the whole package. It's not just where you land. It's not just all that. And also, like, there's a lot of these snide remarks about the Double D's. They don't remember anything in the previous seasons. How can you watch this season and think that? Like Tyrion's like, oh, the last time I was at King's Landing, I killed my father, and Davos immediately shots back. Last time I was here, you burnt my son with wildfire. Like, of course they got this institutional memory of the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, to me, it seems obvious that the real problem is they are trying to tell a story that they don't themselves fully understand.
And they're strapped for time.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about that is that knowing that Tyrion's chief strategy was burning men alive when it was the survival of his side, it is a little bit hypocritical to show him so disgusted with Dany burning people alive for the same situation.
Yeah, they're both armies. They're both groups of troops, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know why when he's protecting King's Landing it's somehow noble.
Yeah.
And when Dany's doing it, it's somehow not.
I wish there was a conversation with him with Varys. Is like, look, you don't have to tell me, Varys. I know what it's like to burn thousands of men alive because and I had my fill of it. Like these aren't fatal flaws; they could be easily fixed. But then again, every single time you say that adds 30 seconds of runtime, and what are you going to do?
So continuing their little scheme here, Davos goes to Flea Bottom in search of Gendry. When he finds him, he asks him to come to Dragonstone, and Gendry is basically already in the boat.
Yep.
On the way out, he grabs his warhammer. When they reach the escape boat, some gold cloaks find him. Davos smoothly bribes them, and they leave. And it works until Tyrion shows up. They recognize him, and they're going to take him captive, but Gendry blasts him in the head with a warhammer. So we have been talking about Gendry on and off for the last, I don't know, 6 seasons?
Mostly as a joke.
5
I
seasons?
believe 2-3 episodes ago I said just Gendry's never coming back.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I did.
Of course. And
I
of
have
course
a
he
long-
shows up 2 episodes
I have
later.
a long track record of saying, "Oh, cold hands, binging, forget, get the fuck over it," and then 2 episodes later, the dude shows up. So.
Yeah. So what is the purpose, I guess, of bringing Gendry back at this point? Is it to sort of, in a weird way, loop this series back on itself with the Ned
I'm telling
Robert relationship?
Well, here's a curveball. This whole scene is about your dad and my dad are bros. It's a lie. Jon's dad isn't Ned Stark.
Well,
Gendry's dad caved in
from a
Jon's,
certain point of
Jon's
view.
dad's chest at the Trident.
From a certain point of view. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
Obi-Wan you here.
Yeah,
But
no, but I'm saying like if Rhaegar's Force Ghost was in the back, he'd look like the painting of the Scream. Like no, we were not bros. I felt like that, and then maybe that's something the show knows as well, and it's going to show that because there's still some betrayals and backstabbing, some tragedy happening, and maybe Gendry, he's all like, "Your Grace this and Your Grace that," but maybe Gendry will start hearing the call of the throne of people, the right people flatter him. I mean, there's not a lot of time left for that kind of stuff, but
yeah.
it also gave me pause because I've been thinking, I used the show to kind of like set my book expectations as well, and then Gendry had kind of gone off my radar, kind of like you're on, and I'm like, well, maybe Gendry is actually going to be a lot more important to the plot. Like, if you'd look at the first couple seasons, the first couple books of Game of Thrones, you'd think, well, Gendry's going to be super important, and then his importance trails off and sort of both. But I know he's hanging around, and now he's right there with Jon with his warhammer north of the wall. I didn't see that coming.
No, that was fairly unexpected. And I think most of this, it certainly works as fan service. I mean, I think everybody was happy to see Davos essentially wink to the camera,
yes,
and say, "Hey, I thought you'd still be rowing."
Nobody,
it was great. I loved it.
Nobody didn't like seeing Bobby B's son pick up a giant ass warhammer and bash 2 gold cloaks in the face. That was all good stuff.
Yep, for sure. But it makes me question, what is Gendry's larger role? And I just don't have a great answer for it yet.
Yeah, me either. Because it seems like he isn't special at all. He's not trained as a warrior. He's just, there's symbolically it's interesting, but yeah, plot-wise, how does it work out? Don't know.
Yeah, this is probably the best the best scene in this episode for me. I really like watching Davos do his thing.
Yeah, Davos is very good.
He's super smooth, and the actor Liam Cunningham, I think his name is, he's great at this character.
He's kind of like becoming the Tyrion of the second half of the series. Like, as much as I like Tyrion going into the first, Tyrion's kind of taking a back seat, and Davos is the guy that stepped up, and he's the people's Tyrion.
And he's making the things happen, right? He's the one uniting the North, essentially.
Yeah.
Jon rolls in and says, "Follow me," and they say no, and Davos says, "Here's why you should follow this guy."
Yeah, and what do I know? I've only lived to a ripe old age, unlike you shits.
Right.
I also like the fact that they keep emphasizing how he is not combat capable and a liability.
Yeah.
Almost exactly the same way that they did with Sam in the early goings, and I'm wondering if, I'm just counting down to, Chekhov's Davos badassery. And he's going to have to, dig deep and do something, because else, where is all this going? They keep hammering it home that, I'm shit in a fight. I can't help you. I'm shit in a fight. I can't help you. Either he's just going to die because he's shit in a fight, or he's going to get something done.
He might. And his line about how you'd better hurry to your favorite establishment or you put a hole in that chainmail. That was one of the highlights of the scene for me. Move on to Jaime going to see Cersei. He tells her, "Hey, I met with Tyrion, who said that an army of dead men are marching on the Seven Kingdoms, and Dany wants an armistice." Cersei asks if he's going to punish Bronn for setting up the meeting that she knew all about, and then tells Jaime that a meeting with Dany could be in their best interest. And, oh, by the way, she reveals she's also pregnant with what she's going to say is his baby.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it is. It probably is, given what we've seen on screen. But I'm not even sure she's 100% or 100% sure that she is pregnant.
I was gonna say she's either 100% pregnant or she's not,
right? Or 0%.
Yeah. No, I feel you. And there's a lot of people There's a lot of feedback about this. For people that don't like listening to feedback, there's essentially 3 camps. One, she's pregnant, and what does that mean to the series? 2, she is deceiving Jamie for some to manipulate him. Maybe there's 3 points. 3, this puts a clock, like the jetpacking, the time passage. Like when you got a woman pregnant, I don't know how it works in Westeros, but here it's like, you got 3 trimesters and boom, it's here. And there's like gradually changing to the body conditions.
This is the fabled long pregnancy.
Yeah, so
it's going to last generations.
Right?
Yeah.
They build a wall in Cersei's uterus to keep it from coming out. I mean, they got to be careful here because there's a clock now. Like, they can't just be zipping back and forth over Westeros and that this particular passage of time not be reflected in Cersei's character.
Right.
So it's kind of a daring move.
And that might even be part of the plot, if she doesn't start showing and we're 6 months down the road, Jamie's gonna be like, what the hell?
Right. Although
what's going on here?
They do, they had a similar clock with Gilly's baby. And like Sam himself says that Bran survived for multiple years beyond the wall when he brought Gilly with the newborn. And now, although I did notice that it seems like baby Sam's a little bit older now. Like maybe he's 2-ish.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
It's tough to say.
It's tough to say.
I don't know.
Like I said, maybe it would be the mythical long pregnancy.
Yeah. And then
spiders everywhere.
At the end, she tells Jamie, "Never betray me again," which is pretty ominous, and it almost makes me wonder if Cersei might not kill Jamie. Like we've been talking about, like will Jamie be the person to kill Cersei? And there's been so much focus on that. Wouldn't it be an odd twist of fate if she were to kill him? Someone who's remained loyal to her from the very beginning,
right,
all the way to the end, and yet she's forced to kill him,
right,
for some reason.
Yeah. Another thing would be, would it be dramatically satisfying if this baby kills her?
Huh.
I mean, she mentions that she's 40 years, like, because she said that for 40 years I listened to Father. They've talked about the fact that her and Jamie are all both slightly over childbearing age. Is it possible? Like, there's a lot of the older you wait to have children, there's more complications. This isn't a modern society.
Right.
Qyburn said, like, do you want me to give you something? Because they do have an effective abortifacient in Westeros called moon tea. I wonder would that be satisfying if she dies in child? Like, to me, no, it wouldn't be satisfying.
Yeah, I want her to die screaming like she wished on Olenna.
The other question is, does this fuck up Maggie's prophecy? Because she said she's prophesied to have 3 children. Now, that was 3 children with the king. So I guess they got all kinds of wiggle room in this prophecy.
Yeah.
The fact that, we also... Well, but the thing is that it wasn't with the king. They said the king will have this and you'll have this many.
Oh, right.
And you already had a child that died young, so the prophecies are kind of already busted. Like, yeah, I don't know. You technically had 5 children, but we're only going to count 3 because they had gold hair. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But it's the kind of like quasi thought out. I mean, this just came out of nowhere.
It did.
Like, this is the thing I most instantly hated about the episode.
Well, it's why it makes me think she's using this as a control mechanism,
right,
as opposed to actually being pregnant.
But why?
Because
she's she's the unquestioned queen of Westeros. Like, if she wants to manipulate Jamie, like, I don't know why she thinks she needs to do this to manipulate Jamie. Or give him, maybe to give him something to fight for, because she senses that he's about ready to give up because of dragons. Well, now you got a kid.
Yeah. I mean, our
dynasty is back on the table.
Right. Yeah, that's very much how I viewed it.
Okay.
We'll see what Jamie thinks. So Davos tells Gendry not to reveal his true identity to Jon, which he immediately does upon meeting him. In just a couple of insults traded, Gendry and Jon become instant besties. Gendry asks Jon to take him to Eastwatch, and Davos is annoyed at everyone.
Yep.
So let's talk about Tyrion taking a couple of jabs, I guess, at Jorah, and then giving him this coin.
Yeah.
That the slaver paid him.
Right.
I thought that was a nice moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's sort of like, oh, you remember this, you asshole, when you kidnapped me and got us both sold into slavery. And, hey, we got through it.
Good times.
And,
Good
we're
times.
better for it, and I hope you come back.
Right.
It was a nice moment.
Then Jorah kisses Dany's hand, and then
Yeah.
Jorah has some. What's Jorah thinking about Jon? Because the thing is, I can't take a Jorah Dany relationship seriously at this point. I don't think he takes it seriously, but it's got to be painful to watch your young queen, fall in love with this handsome young king,
For sure.
and you're just a disgraced Mormont from Bear Island.
Just because he knows it's not actually going to happen doesn't mean he doesn't still want it to happen between him and Dany. So, yeah, he's probably fairly uncomfortable about the whole thing.
Right.
And then Jon packs up all the dragon glass and heads off to Eastwatch in a boat.
He should talk to Jaime about advice for ignoring sounds coming from the king and queen's bedroom chambers while you're standing guard in the king/queen's guard.
Right.
They could probably have a long conversation about all that.
Then we move on to Gilly reading a book while Sam studies. She's telling him all these facts from the book, and comes across a record of Rhaegar's annulment. Hagar's annulment.
I love in the subtitles for it. It said Prince in quotation marks Rhaegar. Just so you know, in case you missed the irony of her mispronouncing Rhaegar.
I did miss it. What are you talking about?
Well, she's pronounced it Rhaegar, like it's like horribly mispronounced, and it's spelled in the subtitles as Ragger. But we're supposed to understand that it's Prince Rhaegar.
Sure, yeah.
Targaryen getting an annulment from his first wife, Elia, and presumably marrying Lyanna Stark in secret in Dorne.
Yeah.
So one of the big questions in Game of Thrones history is how did that all work? Like, is Jon still technically a bastard because it wasn't a proper marriage? And one of the theories was that he, either got a second marriage consecrated by a septon or whatever, and it seems like that's what he did.
Yeah, and it was also a question of was Ileana, is that her name?
Elia,
Elia,
the princess.
Jesus, I can never remember their names.
It's tough
because they're not actual characters. If I don't see their face, it's tough.
Yeah.
There was also the question of whether Elia did it willingly, right? Like,
it doesn't seem
whether
like
she loved Rhaegar.
Like the way Sam describes the annulment is when a lord sets aside his lady. Like it does feel like a jilting, which is a bit more brutal than I've always pictured it.
I'm thinking of the Stark counterpart.
Okay, Lyanna.
Okay, Lyanna. Yes.
Okay.
Like, was that willing? Was she kidnapped? Was she raped? Like, none of that seems to be true based on this story.
Yeah.
It seems like they got married.
Yeah.
And she was probably on board with that.
Right. No. I'd settled in my mind that like there's no way that she. Yeah. Like.
But there was nothing to tell us that, right? Like all the characters assumed that
Right.
she was drug off screaming.
Right.
By Rhaegar, but it doesn't appear to be that way.
Right.
So Sam, instead of recognizing the importance of what she's saying, he gets testy and he shuts down the whole conversation. He decides he's had enough. He gathers as many of the restricted texts as he can carry in a little satchel, takes Gilly and Lil Sam, and rides off in a horse-drawn wagon.
Mm-hmm. One last longing look at the library.
Yeah. So is he just grabbing books at random? Does he know what books he wants to read on the way?
We got a lot of feedback. I think that they were deliberately showing that he was selective in what he's stealing because these are the things that he thinks are probably the most likely to be fruitful.
But then he takes that long look up at the fullness of the library.
All right.
Which to me is saying, what if I missed something?
See, to me,
and yet he still decides to leave.
To me, it's saying my dream was to become a maester, and I'm giving this up in service for something, and I'm taking one last longing look at all these fucking books.
He clearly hasn't found what he's looking for yet, so how could he know that it isn't out there in one of the books he doesn't take?
Man. No, I mean, seriously,
this is the problem.
It seems dangerous.
He's leaving the
that
center of knowledge.
He's flouncing off because the septons won't, or I'm sorry, the maesters won't take him seriously, and he is permanently depriving himself from further research of this unprecedented collection of books. So
and he clearly has no problem getting his hands on the books at night, right?
Yeah.
So continue with what you've been doing, which is searching the text at night.
I thought him leaving the restricted area unlocked was a pretty cheeky move.
Did he?
Yeah, that's fucking absolute savage. Just like some slack-jawed yokel's going to wander into the restricted section tomorrow, and now what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe maybe he intended to do that. Like, I'm going to leave it unlocked so all the other acolytes can get in here and like run rampant through it. Yeah, I mean,
it's like a symbolic gesture.
But cinematically, they were saying that he was selectively, and we're going so that later when he has the perfect tome that he needs, it's not going to seem like bullshit. That he was selectively grabbing these particular texts from all over the library because he thinks doesn't have time to read them all, but he thinks these are the ones that are most fruitful in a search.
Yeah,
don't know how that works, but it's literally not even in my top 5 problems with this script.
Sure. Okay, Arya spies on Littlefinger as he gathers info and speaks to the lords of the various houses. The Maester Vulcan gives Littlefinger a message from Lewin's records. When he leaves, Arya breaks into his room and finds the Raven message from Sansa about Rob's death, trying to convince him to
Ned's death,
or about Ned's
to
death,
Rob.
to try and convince him to surrender. As she sneaks off with that info, Littlefinger watches from the shadows with satisfaction.
Again, Arya, living lie detector, master thief and assassin. I don't think Littlefinger might gather information, but I don't think he's going to out-skulk her.
Yeah.
So that's my thesis for this being some kind of grand Stark conspiracy that the two girls are perpetrating upon Littlefinger.
Yeah. So given like the movements of these two characters, Arya and Jon, over the last few episodes, and how they conspicuously, say, hey, you thought, what'll Jon think when he sees you if he really liked seeing me? It makes me wonder if they're actually going to be reunited at Winterfell. Because Jon's out traipsing around looking
Jon's
for walkers.
not making it back.
He's not coming back anytime
this
soon.
season. Like,
right.
It seems to me that the arc is going to end up north.
Yeah, now, it could, I guess... They both ultimately want to get to the same place, right? Jon wants to present this this white to Cersei Lannister in King's Landing. Arya wants to go to King's Landing to kill Cersei Lannister. I think maybe the reunion could happen there, potentially, but I'm not sure how that would go down. Certainly, I don't think they'd have the time or the space to sort of hug it out.
Yeah, the other thing I'm increasingly not understanding is why Dany just doesn't take, like, it seems to me that Dany believes Jon now. So when you're talking about existential threats, Cersei Lannister is not an existential threat now. Like, she's going to probably be behind King's Landing until you go and drag her out of there. Like, this whole idea that, like, if Dany goes up north, Cersei's going to go running buck wild and take over all of the Seven Kingdoms again, that seems crazy. And it also just, like, they got a pretty good reason to put the dragons in a cage, because if you take them against King's Landing and melt the whole city, then congratulations, you're a genocidal maniac. Why doesn't she take her dragons up north to at least lay eyes on the White Walkers?
Yeah.
Also, Bran has established that they're all in one giant group. Like, do they have ice scorpions? Or if they have just bows and arrows, they're not going to do dick all to those dragons. And I don't know. Like, I just wonder that there seems like a bunch of artificial barriers to this. Like as quickly as it's moving, they're also dragging their feet somehow with the dragons. The dragons are dragging their feet. Yeah,
dragons are, they open a lot of doors that the show can't, can't close fast enough.
But who's going to open the window?
Bran will.
And he'll jump off it.
Yeah. So Jon arrives at Eastwatch and he tells Tormund the plan to snatch a white. Tormund thinks it's fucking stupid because it is.
Yep.
But there are some people who want to join them. He takes them to the cells where the Hound, Beric, Thoros are all being held. Gendry says not to trust him because they sold him to the Red Witch. Jon thinks it's smart to trust them because they're still breathing and they all go north of the wall together. Jon's doomed if breathing is the only prerequisite of being trustworthy because Cersei's breathing.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong. Like, this is essentially the postulate of the noted scholar Rick Grimes, where it's all white meat or dark meat now, you know?
Yeah.
Which kind of sounds vaguely racist if you just say it like that.
Is that what he says?
Yeah, he says that before he almost throws Merle off the roof in season 1.
Before he eats a whole chicken.
Before he eats a whole chicken.
Yep.
He only eats the breast, and he did the thighs and the leg.
Because he's racist. He grew up in Georgia. What do you want?
He's fleshist. Yeah. So, I don't even know. But that's like, he's not wrong. Like, when you're fighting the army of the dead, everyone is breathing should be your ally.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Cersei knows that.
Sure.
And
I
even
don't
if you
think
drop
she's
a white
convinced.
right in her lap, I don't think it's going to. She's going to
Yeah.
try to figure out how to use it to her own advantage.
There's some good stuff from Tormund here when he asks who he brought with him. The big woman? Did you bring her
Yeah.
with you?
Do you follow? I don't forget this guy's actor on Twitter, but he's been sending a bunch of replies to Gwendolyn Christie that have like gifs, different animated gifs with Tormund and Brienne's face pasted on them. It's pretty entertaining.
That's pretty good. How's Gwendolyn responding?
Pretty good. Also, he also found I think it was a Tormund action figure with the Brienne of Tarth action figure, and he was making them kiss and stuff. Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like they're all. I mean, I think it's cute. I think it's funny. Like, it wouldn't be funny if like Tormund was much larger, but since like I fully know, I fully believe that Brienne, if she wanted, could cave in his face at any time. It kind of reduces it to like a schoolyard, like pulling on pigtails situation. So
For sure,
it reads as cute to me. And it wouldn't if it was all capable for him to threaten Brienne. But since he can't, it's more of just her discomfort of it, and the fact that like I don't even know if it's a discomfort. It's just the fact that she's never had like a relationship where she's been the one that pines, but she's never been on this end where she's been an object of desire, and she's not quite sure what to feel about it. I don't think she just is not interested. It's just like this is a foreign concept to her.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone loves hearing the 40-year-old man's opinions on the inner thoughts of the warrior woman, but that's my read of it.
Yeah, that's what the show has told us, I think.
Yeah.
And that's it for the episode. We ran a little bit long here on the recap.
It's tough.
I don't think it was like a super long episode. I think it was just a lot to talk about.
Yeah. It's also like, again, a lot of it was made about the Seven Samurai, the Magnificent Seven, the Suicide Squad. It was cool to see them all come together, and I even liked the fact that like all of these people have so many reasons not to trust each other and so much bad history, but they're welded together, and like maybe that's a way to understand the Cersei part of it, that like if you could crack her impenetrable smug skull with some idea that like, look, if you don't stop your bullshit, everyone will die. Let's take care of this, then we can get back to killing each other. Maybe it'll work. Maybe. At my most charitable.
She does want to fight and die as opposed to surrender and die.
It just seems like even if it's possible that the fact that all the good guys are on board with the good guys and gals are on board with the plan is a bit much. So
okay.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Casper. Casper makes an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price, and I've been sleeping very satisfactorily on a Casper mattress for the past 3 years, and it's not like it replaced I don't know, a bed of broken branches and glass. Like it was a very, very comfortable, high-end, store-bought mattress, and I got the Casper, and I slept on it, and I threw the other one right out the window. Get out of here. It's garbage. Because here's the thing, like, and I've tried memory foam mattresses before, and sometimes, like, they'd be too hot or they'd be a little bit too firm. Casper's deal is that they've like got a bunch of different blends and layers to give you just the right amount of sink and just the right amount of bounce to give you the kind of temperature that's comfortable in a wide range of sleeping conditions. And the other thing that's really cool is that you can try it for 100 nights risk-free. They dropped this thing. I got a king-size mattress. It came in a box about 2 by 2 by 3. If you've ever had to get a king-size mattress up or down a two-story apartment building or something, or 3-story, it's such a pain in the butt. And this thing just comes like all compressed, and they got a special tool that slices it open without damaging the patent. The thing just flops out and expands to its full size, and it just makes it so convenient. And if you don't like it, they will come and pick it up and either have it recycled or hauled off at their own expense. So it's completely risk-free. Like, you can't do that with any other conventional mattress. Go to a mattress store and say, hey, I want to yoink this thing for 100 days. I'll return it with sweat stains and God knows else on it, and you'll be cool with that, right? They will throw you out. They will call the cops and have you arrested. That's a fact.
That's
happened. That's not a Casper talking about. That's just a fact that everyone knows.
Right.
Casper won't do that to you. Over 20,000 reviews, an average of 4.8 stars. It's becoming the internet's favorite. But do you know how hard it is to maintain a 4.8 I know
we've tried it. We don't
from
have it on this
iTunes
podcast.
reviews.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep the high 4.9s when you get thousands of reviews. They got they got this thing on lock. Free shipping returns to the U.S. and Canada. Even the lands of always winter in Canada. Free shipping and returns there. And it's designed, developed, and assembled in the United States. Bottom line is, if you're looking for a great mattress, Casper's got it. You can get $50 off any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/GOT and using our exclusive promo code GOT at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. If you want a better night's sleep, check out Casper. Today's podcast also sponsored by Bald Move at club.baldmove.com. You can join the club and get a bunch of exclusive off. It offers just the right bounce, just the right sync for your podcasting experience. It's obsessively engineered club experience.
Is it? I mean, I work on it in my spare time when I'm not doing podcasts. So the club experience is a little weak, I gotta say. But the content's strong.
Content's great. The content game is strong. You get
memory foam based content.
You do. You get free. You get ad free podcasts.
You do.
You get a bunch of exclusive bonus audio content, such as our Quit Your Pitching series, the Empire Business series, where we talk about what's it like to be behind the scenes of a podcast startup. Lunch with Jim and Aaron, our Friday afternoon spectaculars, where we just get on the mics and talk about whatever. It's a general interest podcast exclusive to club members, and a lot more. Also, you can watch us record most podcasts. It's the quickest way to actually get a podcast. You can see where we goof up and where we have to make edits and stuff. It's a good time for everybody. All that and more can be had at club.baldmove.com. And hey, you also support us making all these podcasts essentially for free. The vast majority of our content is available for free for anyone to enjoy. We just like to incentivize people to support us with a little bonus content. And, you get a little karmic reward for helping the little guys out here at baldmove.com. So go to club.baldmove.com, check out the pitch there, see all the special features, and hey, test drive it for 30 days free with when you sign up. Check it out, club.baldmove.com.
Why don't we get to feedback?
Sure. Rashida D was listening. So, of course, we've got a little bit of old business to get to first. Was listening to the 704 recap, and you mentioned that Bran knows a treachery that Baelish has been up to. Why is he still walking around? Never read the book, so all my knowledge of the Raven is show-based, but it appears the Raven sees he doesn't do. The Raven we first met is in a cave connected to a tree. He may have affected things telepathically, as he got a glimpse of this possibility from Bran at the Tower of Joy, but has never concretely expressed that he, the original Raven, manipulated situations. It doesn't seem like the Raven is supposed to interfere with the goings-on of regular folk. I'd be a little disappointed if the Raven used his power to settle personal scores. So, do you think there's this unspoken prime directive amongst three-eyed ravens that they're kind of like a Gandalf, that they're allowed to advise and give information, but they're not really allowed to directly influence the course of the struggle?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how the line of ravens would be sort of continued without some sort of interference. Like, if you're going to perch yourself way up in the north where no humans go, how are you going to get it seems like to me like you have to tell people, hey, come up here, or force them to come up there to pass on.
Well, that's the thing. You can offer the invitation, but like Bran could have just rejected it. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference between influence versus, whereas Bran just says, oh, Sansa, Littlefinger did this, and oh, by the way, he also did this, so probably should cut his head off.
I mean, what's the difference between sending a raven that, says, hey, you need to deal with this problem here?
Yeah.
Like that is not manipulation because it's known to the person receiving the message, right?
Yeah.
But it's certainly pushing events in a direction you want them to go.
Well, but on the other hand, ask Kirk, Picard, Janeway, Sisko, and whoever the fuck Quantum Leap dude was what the Prime Directive means. Sure, I bet you get 5 different answers.
Right. Yeah.
So
Max von Sydow wouldn't have done that shit.
No.
Bran's taking liberties.
He's more of a Picard, original constitutionalist view.
Bran's the Kirk, I guess.
Bran's the Kirk. Okay. Or he could be the Janeway, because the Janeway was like completely roll of the dice, flip of the coin about how she'd interpret the Prime Directive.
Right.
Like, will the Prime Directive fuck my crew over? Then I will will it settle a petty score? Then fuck the Prime Directive. Anyway, OMC. I've been listening and reading lots of reviews of last week's episode and the season in general, and I'm a bit disappointed not hearing any more respect for Sansa, who I think is doing an amazing job running Winterfell and managing family reunions. The most important point, I think, has been missing is what I vaguely anticipated her reunion with Arya to include. That is, Arya saying, I took out the Freys, and Sansa saying, I took out the Boltons. Sansa won the Battle of the Bastards and full-on murdered Ramsay Bolton in perfect revenge. Cold-blooded as any of Arya's assassinations. They have each worked to protect or avenge the family. They're totally on the same team. They're incredibly capable young women. It was lovely to see them greet each other with affection and treat each other with respect and the spoils of war. Oof, about this week. Looking forward to deeper connection and collaboration in the future. I am too, and I think I've talked myself into thinking that this is a Sansa-Arya tag team of Littlefinger. Because anything else just is a regression to their previous states of character development that I don't like.
Yeah, and I mean, we, in the episodes where they deserved it, we have given them praise, right? That reunion was good, and we talked about it. The moment they had down in the crypts together. I think this episode, like, Sansa's really... She's walking a fine line in patience here.
Right.
Because I think that's the only thing required at this moment of her, is to just fucking be patient.
Right.
And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're faced with the weight of a lot of... lords of houses screaming at you saying, this is fucking stupid, we want to do something, we've got this threat looming. Being patient in this situation is difficult, and I applaud her for that.
Yeah. Sasha says, although I will say, I think it would have been cool if there'd been like, yeah, I killed the Boltons, I killed the Freys, that'd have been, but,
High five moment, freeze frame at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Sasha says, am I the only one who's grossed out by the thought of Jon and Dany together? I mean, they're related. People are using just... I'm just going to cut you off and say, apparently, yes. Yes, they're the vast majority of internet people want to see the dragon niece get down and dirty with her wolf nephew.
Because that's not how we think of them, right? I mean, we've talked about, like, what is the problem with the familial relationship when it comes to, like... to those extended family members, right? Like,
yeah,
the problem a lot of the times is the familiarity. That's the thing that makes it so squicky to human beings.
The taboo,
and they don't have any of that.
Right. The taboo on incest is probably mostly because it fucks up our population genetically. And secondly, most cases of incest you can think of have some sort of power imbalance. Like, you think of a 50-year-old... aunt preying on a 15-year-old nephew or something like that. Something you're taking advantage of someone's youth and experience. In this case, you're talking about, like, isn't it technically okay for cousins? Like genetically, just genetically, not morally, ethically.
Right. We're not talking about that.
Like, I feel like that there's certainly a lot of states in this here union that allow cousins to marry. So, like, what's the difference between an aunt and a nephew? And like, there is no, like, they're literally equals.
Right. And I mean, importantly to the story, yes, okay, now it is starting to become a little weird now that we know Jon's true parentage, Jon's true roots. But for so long, we've been thinking about them as completely unrelated people. So it's very difficult to get out of that mindset, I think, at least for me.
Yeah. No.
To see them as brother or as aunt and nephew, I guess. Right. Is that what the relationship is?
Yeah.
Is very difficult for me.
Sure.
Because I've never known them as that.
And like I said, like, I would, if I would break down my percentages, I'm saying like 95% of my feedback is roughly let them bone, and 5% is like, is anyone else disturbed that this is an aunt and a nephew? So
yeah,
you're not alone, but there's a lot of people that take a look at Kit Harington's abs and lats and manly good looks, and a lot of people looking at Amelia's curvy shape and just wanting to mash those things together, hardcore HBO style.
Yeah.
So, and I'm kind of like, my problem with it is narrative. Like, I'm not squicked out by it necessarily for all the reasons we talked about. It's more of just like, I just don't think that's the story George is telling.
Okay.
Like, this isn't a happily ever after, ice and fire forever and ever until death did they part kind of thing. Or if the death parts them, it's going to be swift and brutal. Hectate. There are at least a few characters who, if they survive the end, might make a lot of sense as new recruits to Night's Watch, such as Theon, Jaime, Jorah, even perhaps the Hound. But will there be any point of the Night's Watch to exist when all is said and done? Even if the Wall is still standing, with the wildlings now invested in life south of the Wall and the others presumably gone, is there any other reason to continue the practice of sending disgraced and defeated Westerosi north to take the Black?
Yeah, I certainly think there's value in it. The what if factor,
Right.
that alone kind of seems like it's a good thing.
Right. Like, you can't colonize the lands of every winter. It's like, with their technology, there's no way you can, like, effectively garrison and secure it. So
Right.
how can you ever be sure that you've permanently dealt with the threat? Like, you don't think that anyone in the last 8,000 years have asked whether it's stupid or not to send men?
Yeah.
Obviously, the answer is yes, because the wall is severely undermanned at the start of the series. So, yes, it would be foolish to just completely abandon that post. But also, no, I would imagine that if the White Walkers take another 1,000 years or so to regenerate, that all the same bullshit will probably happen. And maybe that could be something that George is telling us. The fact that, like, and it seems like a lesson we're doomed to repeat as a species, that you cannot outrun, like, the repeating effects of history. Mm-hmm. Like, as desperately as you want your future generations, like, once things get out from living memory, such as, I don't know, fascism and Nazis, like, once that stuff falls out of living institutional memory, it starts creeping back up again. So,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Keep fighting it. Keep manning the wall.
I have a question about Randall Tarley being sent to the Wall.
All right.
By anyone. By his queen,
I've got
another
a
queen.
on-the-spot made-up answer. Ready to go.
Randall Tarley implies that he could be sent to the Wall to become part of the Night's Watch. Mm-hmm. Don't you have to take an oath? Don't you have to, like, earn a spot in the Night's Watch?
I mean, there's like, it's a
Why have
two-step
an
process.
oath if you're just sent there as a punishment, I guess? Like,
Yeah, like, there's a two-step process, I suppose. One is you have to be, like, sent to the Wall, and then secondly, you have to be
or choose to go there.
You have to take the oath as a black brother.
Okay.
Now,
so you could be at the Wall indefinitely, forever, and just
I
never
don't think
take the
so.
oath.
I think that
What happens to you?
I
You
think
get
that
beheaded?
you would be remanded to justice if you just refuse. Like, if you want to be a conscientious Night Watch, objector, that they're like, okay, well, you were going to be hung for stealing a horse / betraying the Dragon Queen, so that's going to happen now.
What if you're just never quite good enough at a thing?
You try. I mean, it's fucking like, you can't.
He was a fine.
You can't shovel shit out of a stall. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to be a ranger. You can be a builder. You can be a smith. You can
What
be
if you
a
break your
maester.
hands? Break both your hands. Lose your hands. What if you're Davos? Except he's the
Fucking Maester Aemon was blind and probably couldn't control his bowels or bladder. They still
but he
had
was a
him
maester.
send in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was the info guy. He still had a brain and a mouth.
I don't know. I don't like. That's a good question. How do they handle malingers? How do they handle, like,
I imagine they just let you die if you maim yourself to avoid your oath.
Probably, yeah.
They're like, fine, go for it.
The infection would kill you.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. They don't have Neosporin.
It's true.
They got milk of the poppy. They got the moon tea, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Anything. If you're pregnant, they can make you not pregnant. If you're in pain, they can make you not feel it. Everything else,
Right.
You're fucked. All right, Funk. After listening to yesterday's episode, you discussed Jon taking the Stark name at the 55-minute mark. I was thinking about what would happen if, hypothetically, Jon and Daenerys got married. Typically, you take the man's name in marriage, but with Jon being a bastard Snow, would he take the Targaryen name? Could he take the Stark name? Do we have any background from the books or otherwise about how that would shake out?
He's not a bastard. He's a true-born Targaryen.
Yeah,
apparently.
but that's, I think, a batter. That's kind of settled that he could. He is a bastard. I think if you're legitimized, which I think since Jon's the king of the North, he can self-legitimize because only the king or queen can legitimize you. So if you're the king, like, even the concept of being a bastard, what the hell does that even mean? Like, you'd have to make a strong stand of, like, I like being a bastard and I don't want to legitimize yourself.
Yeah.
If you're legitimized, I think you can take your family's name. If you're a bastard, like we talked about how you kind of like inverse the heraldry and you can like start your own house name. Like, for example, the Blackfyre Targaryens got their name when one of the bad kings, was it the Aegon the Unworthy, legitimized all of his bastard children on his deathbed. And these guys are previously had called themselves the Blackfire and had gone with the Black Dragon on the red field. Were now legitimate Targaryens, and could take that the name if they wanted to. As far as marriage, it seems like Game of Thrones follows the same rules of modern day royalty, where you can't marry into royal blood. So, like, Queen Cersei Lannister would not become Queen Cersei Baratheon just because she married Robert, because her blood is not royal blood. Now that she's the queen by her own right, she could be. But like Prince Philip did not become a Windsor when he married Queen Elizabeth. Nor did he become king. He's the prince consort. So it's one of those things where like it's the royal blood that matters, and that's where the last name stays.
Gotcha.
So there you go. And if you want to know more, go pester a Brit about it, because I don't know more than that, and it makes my head hurt thinking about the whole titles and heraldry and all that. Also, don't bother educating me on email, because I'm not going to read it. Don't care. Ryan D. In the 704 recap, you mentioned how ruthless the Dothraki were and how difficult it might be for them to integrate into modern society. This got me thinking about Dan Carlin's excellent Wrath of Khans podcast. He explained how the Chinese Yuan dynasty began with Kublai Khan, Genghis's grandson, but after only a generation or two, the children of the Mongols got soft, started enjoying a more modern Chinese urban lifestyle, etc.
Hell yeah.
Giving all the other Mongol parallels, I wonder if they'll hint at the Dothraki becoming more Westerosi by the end. I wonder how they're enjoying Dragonstone so far.
There's a Xbox in the Dragonglass Cave.
Right.
John finds.
I mean, you can already see how like Khal Drogo started to go a bit soft.
Uh-huh.
When he was getting honey-dicked by Dany. It's like, we have to do all this raping and pillaging. I don't, like it's, that absolutely is a real thing. Like, to the extent that some cultures have this edge because they don't have creature comforts, and they, are more inured to hardships and heat and cold and things like that. It's amazing how quick you lose it once you get some silks. You get some silk sheets. You get some warm food in your belly. You get a roof that doesn't leak over your head, and suddenly you're afraid to lose all those things, like all of other soft people.
Get a sweet Casper mattress.
Right.
You're done for, man.
Yeah, you don't want to lose all that.
Survive in the harsh winter.
So I think you might be onto something here, Ryan. That they could show. I mean, at least hint. And there's probably going to be generations of, the racist bullshit they're going to have to overcome, and they're going to be not quite seen. They're going to be seen as new rich or newly entitled. But, the reality is they could be the lords and ladies in a generation or two of significant houses. Because, forget that what is the original Westerosi? They're the children of the forest. And then it was the First Men, and then it was the Andals. So it's like, this happens all the time. Some horde of unwashed savages comes over the continent and takes everything over. They will be integrated like everything else. They'll be like the new gods. Will be the horse gods and whatever. Edward R. I know you're going to do season 2 of Game of Thrones after this season, but when are you going to do season 3? If we really have to wait a long time for the final season, would we be able to get season 3 coverage before the final season? So,
Never. We're just gonna leave a blank spot. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
There's a lot of discussion. I think our original plan was we would do every backfilling season because we didn't have the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones for reasons that is too long to explain here. We backfilled season 1 after season 6 of last year. We're going to do season 2 after season 7, and our thought was just to finish after season 8. We just do season 3, and then we're done. Now knowing that Game of Thrones is not going to come back to 2019, I could see us doing like a random Game of Thrones coverage in the middle of next year because everyone's going to be kind of hankering for it.
Yeah, and in one of our slow spots potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The plans for seasons 2 and 3 I think are still up in the air, right?
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm pretty committed to doing season 2 after this season.
Okay. All right. I got from a conversation earlier that you were questioning that, but
I'm not saying it's going to be super fun, and there might be some tight scheduling, but I think it's the best. It's best for Bald Move for sure.
Okay.
But season 3, I mean, the only thing I tell you is like subscribe to our social media and follow us on baldmove.com.
Subscribe to this feed too, because that's where they'll pop up.
Right. And we don't just randomly drop bullshit. Like
Yeah.
if you subscribe to a feed, the next time you'll see a new podcast is when we have something like valuable to contribute, like another season, like either season 8 or season 2 or season 3. It won't be like just blowing up over stupid stuff. John S. says, "Hey guys, do you recall how many Dothraki warriors Dany has with her? I seem to remember the number 100,000, but I'm not sure how that refers to the total number of Dothraki, men, including men, women, and children who now follow her, or what?"
So I don't know how many she left back in Marine, and I don't know how many she was able to bring over on the boats.
Right. I think 100,000, because here's the thing. Dany had Drogo's Khalasar at the beginning, which was the largest of them, but it was just one of many Khalasars ran by various cows that, spring up, break off, retire, get killed, all that stuff. She now has all of the Khalasars from everywhere. Like all the Dothraki have now sworn allegiance to her. So she's got a shit ton. Like when Jaime says that this Dothraki army couldn't be beat by any army he's ever seen, that's a huge thing for him to say, because he's seen armies of 20-30,000 fielded against each other at any one time. So like it's a big number, but are the Double D's sweating numbers right now? It doesn't seem to be.
Yeah,
you're supposed to believe what you've been told, which is it's big enough to defeat single-handedly any army on Westeros right now. Mm-hmm. Let's get to the new stuff now. Adam S. When Arya is following Littlefinger, you hear Raven's call multiple times. From my count in his room alone, 5 separate times. As much as it seems that Arya is being set up by Littlefinger, who thinks he's so fucking clever, could it actually be that Arya sees through this and knows he's being played, and Bran is already watching Mr. Chaos in the act? With his Ravens and Arya not being such a stupid little girl anymore, together could they convince Sansa that it's time to survive as a pack and finally bring an end to the sniveling, conniving prick that has been a thorn in the Stark side this whole time? What do you think of the counting crows in the room here? Because
I didn't notice it.
I didn't either. I did verify that it's true. I'm open to the idea that the Stark alliance extends beyond Sansa and Arya and includes Bran too. Mm-hmm. Because, or like, as he postulates, maybe this is going to be Bran and Sansa teaming up to teach, the teach reason to Arya. I don't know. But I like it. And I remember there was a lot of, in season 1 and 2, there was some talk about like paying attention to when crows are in the backgrounds, some potentially, and I don't think that anything came of that, but like, obviously now the crows are very associated with Bran being his eyes and ears. So if they're including all that crowing there, it's probably significant.
Yeah.
Or maybe Littlefinger's room's just underneath the rookery. I haven't seen a floor plan of Westeros. I don't know, or the Winterfell. I haven't seen where they checked him in at, but you never know. Andrea R. Why bring Gendry back if he's not to play an important role? Is he going to be important for him and his lady Arya? If you recall in previous seasons, he always referred to Arya as his lady. Is he going to found the new House Baratheon? And does that even matter at this point? Is he actually not a bastard and is actually Cersei and Robert's firstborn black-haired beauty son that died from fever? Would Cersei know or care that it was him? Is that Robert's actual warhammer? And if so, how did Gendry get it? Whew, it's a lot of questions that I don't have great answers for. Let's take them in reverse. Is that Robert's actual warhammer? I say no.
I don't think so, no.
Like I think the fact that he works at the Streets of Steel, that you're supposed to understand that in part of his preparation is that he made himself a bomb-ass hammer. Mm-hmm. Kind of disappointed that he didn't make himself a bull-headed a helmet or a stag-headed helmet that he can wear, because someone should fucking wear helmets. Like, they're not even wearing hats up north. What the hell?
Yeah.
Is this Robert's firstborn black-haired beauty son who died from a fever? Doubt it.
Yeah, I seriously doubt it too, but there's nothing that says it isn't, I suppose.
I mean, that's a show-only thing too. That was a speech that in season 1, famously, the Double D's asked for 10 episodes worth of budget. They got it, and then they wrote like 8.5 episodes worth of script, started filming it, and realized they were short. So they wrote like some of the best stuff in season 1. There again, ammunition if you want to say the Double D's are hacks. Look at this. Some of the best stuff is show-only stuff, like the conversations between Cersei and Robert, the conversations between Cersei and Catelyn, where all this stuff came out. So I would tend to not think of that, since that's a show-only thing, and the fact that Gendry's showing up late in the series means he's important, which probably means he's important in the books as well. I don't think that we're supposed to understand that.
Yeah, it's apparent that Gendry will have some bigger purpose in the story, though, which surprises me.
Would Cersei know or care? I doubt it on both of those questions. Would he found the new House Baratheon? I don't know, and I don't know what it would mean for the plot. Like what would that look like? Like, I always think of like questions like this as like imagining how the throne rooms, like the celebration scene at the end of Star Wars goes. Like if Leia, instead of just handing out medals, had to be like, okay, Han, now you're the disgraced son of a Corellian pirate, and you get to found the house. So like, who gives a shit? It's the end of the movie. Everyone's happy because they won.
Yeah.
Like, Gendry going and getting a castle, I don't think is going to be dealt with. Now, him and his lady Arya. There's a lot of talk in the beginning phase about like if that was going to be some romantic angle. It sure doesn't feel like it at this point, though.
No, but an episode ago I was saying Gendry's never coming back, so what the fuck do I know?
Confirmed. Gendry and Arya.
Yeah.
The Garya is the thing.
Everything I know is wrong.
Yep.
Everything I think will never happen is right.
All right, Evan G. I was listening to your instant take, and I was wondering if maybe the roadmap, which you guys jokingly referred to as a couple of bullet points that Gurm gave the Double Ds, is just leading them down a completely different road than he is actually planning to going down in the books. Possibly just as a way to fuck with people, or as a way of rewarding the book readers with a more true ending, or maybe he's using it as a method to figure out which direction to actually take the books by finding out what works with an audience and what doesn't.
I don't know what to say to this. Like, what a colossal asshole you must think George Martin to be.
Yeah.
To purposely take a multi-million-dollar production on a weekly fucking basis and troll them. That's based on your own goddamn property. Like, you're not trolling just the fans of the show. You're trolling everyone. Like, no way. No way. He's not doing it intentionally, but he might change the story later. Like,
the more interesting,
and you'll never know the difference.
That's the more interesting thing is him seeing the audience reaction to some things, and yeah, all George can say is like either this is how I would do it or how I wouldn't, or like this is how I would do it, but it's not working because it's not well explained. So I can better explain it, and people will like it better.
Sure, and I think that's totally plausible.
But him to deliberately mislead the Double Ds into something, first of all, like from what I heard, these conversations took place in the very early goings before the first episode was written, and if it didn't sound good or plausible, the Double Ds would probably be like, "What the fuck?" Mm-hmm. But everyone, like I got the idea that their minds were relatively blown by some. Like I remember there was some sort of behind the scenes material where they're talking about, for example, Hodor dying, and that was one of those moments they talked about. That there was like 4 or 5 moments in these notes that George gave him where they're just like, "Oh shit, that's cool. We got to nail that right." And I'm not sure what others to come. If there's been some that we've already seen, I don't know. But yeah, he's only human. I don't think the books are going to be written. To be honest, if they are written, he would be a fool not to take information from the show to try to either better explain or better pull off the things that Double D's either failed to do or failed to satisfy the audience, or to just really lean into the stuff that works well, that are big crowd pleasing moments. Because why wouldn't he? Yeah,
you can at least get a sense of why people didn't like certain things. Right. If it was too rushed, if it didn't, fulfill their expectations,
right?
And then maybe write around those problems.
I certainly don't think that George. Like, I think the creatively fulfilling way to do it would be to ignore everything that's happening on the show and just write in a vacuum. But I already know, because he goes and he goes on his blog and tells people like, oh, that's not how I would have done it, or like the shows are very like, so he's keeping up with this. So the creator going in a vacuum and telling a story, that's off the table.
Yeah.
So, but I'm with you. I don't think he's that big of an asshole. KDP says, overall, I'd say I enjoyed this episode, even with its fast pacing. I do have some complaints. There are about 50,000 conversations I wanted to witness. Jorah and Jon and the Mormont sword, or Sam's connection to both. Gendry and Jon discussing Arya, for example. The Hound discussing Arya and Sansa with Jon. The list goes on. That's a really good point. Like, Gendry says, I met your dad once, not that I was with your sister for the better part of 2.5 seasons. Like, that seems kind of crazy.
Yep. We didn't talk about the problem of the brothers.
What?
The two brothers. Remember, we were speculating on, maybe Jon, knew about Bran.
Right.
And in this episode, he says, I didn't fucking know Bran was alive.
I issued a fucking correction that the King of the North didn't get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a way you can say that, like, he knew Sam told him he was alive, but he figured
and
every
alive
month
at some point. Yeah.
And I know what it's like to be north of the wall. He's a crippled boy with this other little girl. Like,
but
there's
then,
no way.
Retrospective, that two brothers thing doesn't make a lot of sense either. So, the fuck, something's messed up there.
Yeah, it didn't. You're right. That we could have counted some coup on that. Let's see.
Sorry, I totally interrupted.
No, Katie's fine. She said it's okay.
Okay.
I find that with these people traveling such distance together, it would give them more time to make some of these connections, and I find it hard to believe that they aren't. But as a viewer, we'd assume that they just don't get to know each other any better during their travels. Hell, Tyrion and Varys had time to discuss a billion important things on their way to Essos, and Tyrion was literally in a box for the majority of the trip. I find the lack of these connections disappointing. I agree. Increasingly, I'm not understanding why they did 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that particular number, maybe it's just because they couldn't afford to film the spectacle we've seen and get full 10 episodes. But on the other hand, when you throw around terms like afford when you're talking about the largest television show in the world, that's very hard for me to believe.
For sure.
So I don't know, because you're right. It's not like in previous seasons we didn't get long conversations of Tyrion and, Varys in a fucking wagon. We saw Lady Olenna and cruising around in a wagon. We saw lots of different, we used to call it the traveling roadshow. Bronn and Tyrion.
Yeah, it's just a symptom of reaching the end and having to get to the conclusion at a rapid pace.
Right.
I mean, those scenes aren't not being shot because they can't afford them. They're not being shot because they don't have time for them.
But is that true? Because, why does everyone have to meet on the fucking beach of Dragonstone? Why can't there be, a scene on a boat where they're sitting down and actually making these meaningful connections? It's the same amount of verbiage and screen time, but you're now suggesting the passage of time,
right,
which alleviates some of this jetpacking complaints. You're giving more time for the story to breathe. You're not really increasing the budget.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those scenes are being done because you need to show some interaction. Like they're trying to show some interaction between characters that are parting ways, and they're also trying to stuff in interaction between characters who are not parting ways into those scenes. And I feel like they're just trying to shortcut it from both ends, and it's not quite working.
Right. Yeah. Matthew L. is the first guy that brought up the problems with Maggie DeFrog's prophecy. I wanted to give him credit and the feedback about, does this invalidate the prophecy? Does now that she's got, because we already knew she had 4 kids almost, and now she's going to perhaps have 5. Is it going to kill her in childbirth? All those questions. And by the way, we'll talk a lot more about that in the spoiler edition, if you want to wait for that. Moving on to Bradley H. The sequence of the Bran-controlled crows is pretty cool, but I think my favorite part was when the Night King looked at them and they dispersed. Do you think Bran deliberately retreated once he realized the Night King saw him, or does he have an ability to somehow disrupt Bran's warging?
Yeah, the latter was my impression of the scene.
Right.
Brandon seemed almost disturbed by the Night's King, whatever the fuck he's called, being able to break his spell over the Ravens.
Yeah, he's like Zoolander. He whipped out blue steel, and Bran couldn't maintain the warg through it.
Yeah, no, it shocked him. Yeah, he seemed surprised by it, almost. Or not surprised, but not like he willingly broke off that connection.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just how I read the look on his face.
All right. And then his reaction of when we finally got them back in Winterfell seems like not as nonchalant as if he had just deliberately closed contact. It seemed like it was a little bit of psychic force being used.
Yeah.
On a similar note, I was wondering just how much the Night King knows about our main characters. He's met Jon, he's met Bran while green seeing. Does he know that they're related?
He's met? met. I mean, they're not exactly shaking hands
He
here.
raised
and
his he
having a
had a
beer.
full gloat-based language converation
I
over the
suppose
water.
so.
He raised his hands. What more do you want? Come at me, bro. I don't
think he knows anything about them other than these are the leaders of the forces I'm trying to destroy.
Well, I mean,
But I couldn't say that for sure.
Like I said, we got to make an appeal to ignorance. We don't know how this stuff works. It's possible through the psychic connection that he's divined everything that Bran knows about,
Right.
Or if there, to the extent that there is a special relationship between the Starks and the Wall and the Night's Watch, which has been hinted many times in both the shows and the books, maybe he would be able to sense their starkness, this ancient bloodline. I don't know. I don't know. Like, the Starks go back to the founding of the Wall. I don't know that. I know the Baratheons didn't. They're an offshoot of Targaryens. There's a lot of the Casterlys got taken over by the Lannisters at some point. The Gardeners got taken over by the Tyrells. Like a lot of there's ancient houses and there's ancient houses, and like the fucking Starks are an ancient house. So if anyone's gonna have some kind of special psychic relationship with the Night King, it'd probably be them. But that's just me making wild ass guesses.
Yep.
Let's see. Adam S has a real quick question. I've been to Iceland a few times. Actually, an observation. It's kind of cool. I've been to Iceland a few times. Fantastic place. I'm slightly obsessed with it. I mention this because myself and my partner, Jen C., recognized in a preview for next week the most photographed mountain in all of Iceland, Kirkjufell/Church Mountain. It's a very distinctive landformation, absolutely unmistakable, and is famous for how particular it is. The preview for next week's show shows John's team walking to a mountainous region with Kirkjufell in the center of the shot, apparently framed as their destination. Note, this is not the first time I've recognized Kirkjufell on Game of Thrones. Per the attached screenshot, the same mountain is clearly featured in the background of the scene when the Children of the Forest made the first White Walker. Dum, dum, dum.
All right.
See, before you asked this email, I was assuming that was going to be like the Fist of the First Men or something. That's interesting, the fact that they're potentially journeying to the birthplace of the White Walkers. I don't know what to make of it. But the photographic evidence is unmistakable. I mean, it is literally the same mountain.
Yeah.
I think that the people on the Game of Thrones production know that. I think that they probably intend us to recognize the location in context, and maybe something amazing is going to happen.
Maybe.
But I literally don't know anything other than those details, what it could be.
Yeah, it suggests to me that something important is going to be there, and I don't know if it's just going to be as simple as more scribblings on more rocks that John is going to recognize.
Spiral.
Yeah. It could just be as simple as that. Or I think we saw that there were a lot of stones set up in a specific arrangement at that location.
There is. That's the spiral.
Yeah.
Was around the ritual that they used to convert the dude into the White Walker.
But what significance that's going to have to these 7 dudes?
And also, more importantly, what significance is it going to have to Jon? Because Jon didn't see that vision. Jon has no idea how the White Walkers were formed. I don't think the Night King's going to take his time to explain with an elaborate hand-raising gestures what it means to him.
Yeah.
So it could just be like an Easter egg for us, or it could be something that
Or Sam's on his way up beyond the wall, and he's going to roll up with the scroll.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Who knows?
I don't know. Seems like a very Jurassic Parky episode next time. A lot of running and screaming.
Yeah.
Cherie W. Why is it not mentioned that Randall Tarley actually fought for Dany's father during the Robert's Rebellion? The Tyrells and their bannermen were amongst the only ones that stayed loyal to the Mad King. Why is Randall willing to die for Cersei for all the monarchs he's been loyal to? He's betrayed his liege lord Tyrells. Why can't he change his allegiance now? Great questions. Like we mentioned in the main podcast, that there is a difference between supporting a local versus a foreign-born queen. There's the fact that they don't like the Dothraki and they're afraid of them, and they don't respect the eunuch army. I think those are good. Are they good reasons? I don't know. Is there any reason good enough to die by Dragonfire? Probably not. But I think these are the reasons that he chose and cited himself for dying rather than bending the knee.
Yeah.
It is. That's always a question. Like, whenever there's like a, present day Earth versus Independence Day type of like thing. Like, they always seem like you can't ever give up. But is it okay to give up sometimes?
To give up,
Like,
when
if you-
the extinction of humanity is at stake.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, not okay. That's a bad example because the Independence Day guys
Yeah.
are going to like take our oceans and atmosphere and leave us with nothing.
Right.
But let's say if they're like a Danny situation where like, look,
Okay.
we just want to conquer you on behalf of the Federation of Planets. You can largely live as you
Okay.
live. It's new
yeah,
management.
if it's an Earth final conflict
you,
situation,
you have to swallow your pride a little bit, but we're not going to be freezing you and eating you. We're not going to steal your oceans. It's just going to be like, at what point are you just a pig-headed moron for dying for a feudal cause?
Yeah, I think Randall Tarley was at that point.
Yeah.
I would have said, yeah, you know what, fuck it. You got the dragons.
Right.
You got the armies. You're
Yeah.
right.
I'm learning to be a little a bit of a schemer here.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean, just this is the final oath that he has left in his life, and he is very much a man of oaths.
I will say it would have been sick, and I would. This is one of the things what made this episode better. Is if Danny had just like, surely she knows enough about Westerosi history, or Tyrion that was right there beside her would say that, like, you fought for her father, like you're the OG Targaryen loyalist. What the hell?
Yeah.
But they didn't do that.
No, I get the decision. So I guess I get the decision from Randall because he's an old man and he doesn't have much time left, and this is the hill he's going to die on, literally. Dickon, I kind of understand where he's coming from too, because he's raised by this man, right? Like the thing that was most important to him, it seems, is impressing his old man,
Right.
and living up to his standards. And so when right in front of him, his old man refuses to bend the knee, I can't see Dickon going any other way.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's almost tragic in a way, because
Right.
Randall has raised him to be this, and when
Right.
he shows himself to be true, this is his worst nightmare, right?
and
Like-
he's literally, and you know, these guys follow the faith of the Seven. That's the other wild card. Is like, you know, I'm talking as a secular humanist atheist. My life is one of the most precious things because I'm never going to get another one. If you believe that you're going to go to 7 heavens or 7 hells if you do the wrong thing, that really changes the arithmetic.
Sure, yeah.
So it's hard for me to put myself into place because I don't have the father, mother, maid, warrior, smith, stranger, danger looking over and judging my actions. So anyway, Adam B. Now that Gilly has told us that Rhaegar had his marriage to Elia Martell annulled and had a secret marriage, presumably to Lyanna Stark, that would make Jon Snow the true heir to the Iron Throne. And if you wonder why that is, Rhaegar is the oldest son to the Mad King. You have to exhaust all of Rhaegar's eligible children before you can jump back up the family tree and then go down to find Dany as the heir.
Right.
So what happens should both Dany and Jon learn of this? Does Dany back off her quest saying that she is the rightful heir? Does she then back Jon, or does she feud with Jon and tell him that he needs to step down away from any claim to the throne?
She's kind of pinned herself in a little bit here with this whole, my name gives me the right to be queen.
I don't think that's her entire claim, but that's a big part
certainly
of
not,
it.
yeah.
It's a big part of it.
It is.
What do you think she would do?
I think she would suggest some kind of mutual rulership.
Such as like a marriage alliance?
Yes.
So 95% of the internet can be happy and 5% can just go vomit uncontrollably.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's essentially asking the question: is Dany a mad queen or not?
Yeah.
Because if Dany's not a mad queen, then Jon is a decent, honorable guy who has what's best for the realm in mind. It would make probably a good king, mostly because he doesn't want to be. Secondly, he's got the rightful claim. So if she goes to war and spills blood over that, that's kind of mad queen territory.
I guess I question what she means exactly by break the wheel, because if breaking the wheel is, you know, your idea of kind of toppling the whole system of rulership, then she would still probably view her claim as more legitimate, and she probably wouldn't want to be queen, you know, in the end, but she wouldn't want anybody ruling over it, period.
Yeah.
So
you're
Jon,
so you're saying is like, I can't guarantee the wheel will be broken if I let Jon take the wheel.
right.
So wow, that metaphor worked out better than I thought in my head.
Yeah, let Jon take the wheel.
But yeah, I guess that's. But then again, it's like there better be some scenes where she tries to win him to her side, and I think he'd be pretty easy to persuade that, like, hey, we need to make sure that people have more direct representation, or however, like, it just seems like as the weeks go by, my idea that I've had for seasons and seasons that, like, that this is going to end up in some sort of democratic institution.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying it's going to be
really don't know.
21st century UK, like constitutional monarchy
Right.
with the part, but it's gonna.
she won't be signing any constitutions.
But on the other hand, anything less than that doesn't have any like what are we
Sure.
wanting? Are we wanting like a Magna Carta, which is more between the lords and the king than it is between the people? But like, I mean, what would be believable? But I know what is believable in the world of dragons and ice zombies. Functional democracy, impossible. Okay, Mike R. I don't even like to be asking this, but has John just signed his own death warrant? Before departing Dragonstone, the last thing he tells Dany is, I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. You know who else said this exact line? Mance Rayder, right before he was burned at the stake by Melisandre, and also Sir Arthur Dayne, right before he was slain by Ned Stark and company. This sign has almost become a sign-off for big characters as they take what is coming to them right on the chin.
Sure.
Counterpoint is, it could also be... the force is with you. May the force be with you of this universe, and we just only seen it go badly.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? It could just be something badass warriors say to each other as a way of saying goodbye, and Game of Thrones being what it is, most people saying goodbye are doing it for the last time.
Also, what is death in this universe?
Yeah,
you know?
So if John, that's the other thing I want to say is, like, if John dies, Thoros of Myr can bring people back to life. If unless the Lord of Light's done with John, he's functionally immortal.
Right. You got to kill Thoros first. Is my feeling on the matter.
Right.
And I don't know if the Night King knows this, but he's the healer of the group. You got to target him first.
Yeah.
And then take out the tanks.
Yep. You gotta kill the medic before you take out the heavy weapons guy.
Yeah.
Just you try to do it the reverse, it just doesn't end well for you. Matt P says, maybe it's not that Daenerys and Jon have the hots for each other after all. Rather, they sense some sort of special blood bond a la Luke and Leia that goes beyond mere lust. Perhaps the idea of marriage doesn't feel right to her, like how Lorraine McFly reacts after kissing Morty. At any solid sci-fi references, I gotta say.
Yeah,
at
all
any,
good.
you got a future in podcasting if I'm any indication. At any rate, would we socially accept the two heroes committing incest as a happy ending? Again, 95% of us totally down for it.
Yeah.
But
I'm cool with it.
I was actually somewhat surprised that their goodbye was so chaste. Like, they didn't like embrace. They didn't have like a particularly long. Like, clearly Dany's got something going on. This might not be a bad way to interpret this. Like, they definitely feel some kind of connection and bond, but it doesn't feel like it. Like, the Luke and Leia analogy is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. Like, there's we should be attracted to each other. We should, but there's this, it's something that's icky, and I don't know.
I could see that.
Yeah. I don't know why it would work that way, but that's a perfectly valid way to interpret it. Okay, this is the last thing we're talking about because some people love this topic, some people fucking hate it. It's a crowd pleaser for the people that are willing to be pleased. It's a discussion of who's the best in single combat.
Oh, Jesus.
Richie G,
Okay.
here's my request. I'd rarely indulge this, and it's going to be at least another season before I do it again. Rank 7, John's crew of 7 going north of the wall from worst to best in single combat. And then could Arya beat straight up the best with no face swapping?
No face swapping?
Yep.
I feel like that's tying one hand behind her back. That's
Right.
That's a skill she's got, man.
Right.
Ah.
This reminds me of like a Super
Rank
Smash
them.
Brothers throwdown. Like,
I mean, I think John or the Hound, because those are the two
here's
that I feel are the best.
we got Jon, we got Beric, we got Thoros, we got the Hound, we got Jorah, we got Gendry, we got Tormund.
Yeah. In my mind, it's either John or the Hound as the first, and then Tormund cleans up. John or the Hound as first and second,
Okay.
and then Tormund right behind.
I think the Hound, hands down, is the best fighter, period.
Okay.
Like, he's got this, and I'm old school. I pay attention to size and strength, all things being equal. And like with Arya, it's not. But
Right.
But like
Speed.
the Hound, very wounded. It was everything that Brienne could do to defeat him,
That's true. Yeah.
and she ended up kicking him off a ledge, not necessarily just straight up beating him.
Yep.
So I think there's no way Jon can beat the Hound. He's got the reach, he's got the size, he's got the strength. I don't. So I'm pretty sure John has beat Tormund. Have they gone one mano a mano?
Man, I can't remember. They've been friends too
He certainly
long now.
defeated wildlings, and Tormund's the best of the wildlings. So
Sure.
like, it stands a reason that John could defeat him. So I'm thinking Hound John.
I mean, they've always made such a big deal about what a great swordsman John is, right? Like
Right.
he's the
He's got
guy who
the
does all the training at the Night's Watch. Like,
He's got the Valyrian steel sword.
right. So I put John way up there.
He's beat
You're
White
probably
Walkers
right.
in single combat. I mean, that's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah.
So,
So the Hound, John, Tormund, Beric.
So where
We
do
haven't
so
seen
here's
enough
the thing.
about Gendry yet.
Gendry is strong as an ox.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the warhammer, but he's largely untested in battle.
Right.
Where do you put
Thoros isn't
Jorah?
beating anybody.
Jorah is was active in the Robert's Rebellion.
I put him under
He
Beric.
defeated a much younger Dothraki warrior with used his armor and his superior essentially battle technology. Where would you put him?
Yeah, I put him under Beric.
Why under Beric?
Because I've seen Beric fight the Hound, and he did a pretty damn good job.
With his fire blade.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Hound
He does
has a
have a
weakness to
fire blade.
fire.
Oh,
This
so
is
you're
a rock
saying that was
paper
a handicap?
scissors situation. Like, could
Yeah.
John sets a sword on fire? He wins the against the Hound in a rout, right?
Plus, I haven't seen Beric fight after his latest death. Like, how much is he diminished? Right.
Right.
Like Jorah's older.
Right.
Beric's been killed once or twice more.
Right.
Those guys are a toss up for me, I guess.
And then here's the thing: like, Thoros in the book,
Yeah.
fought and won in a lot of tournaments, and like especially he was like the grand melee champion. Like, he would, like, when you just have like a bunch of dudes in a field and just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
He was a crowd pleaser, and he did better than you'd expect. But I think in this company, he might